Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 189, the internet's most informative gaming podcast. I am Shane Satterfield.
I'm Matt Kyle.
And we got a gaggle...
Allegedly.
And we have a gaggle of great games to talk with you guys about today. A couple housekeeping things before we get going. If you guys are wondering where Pactor Factor is... So Pactor scheduled Pactor Factor with us and set up a date to shoot, and we put out the call for questions, and you guys delivered. We have tons of great questions. Thank you very much. And then the day before we were supposed to shoot, he calls me and says, I forgot I have a 2-week vacation that starts tomorrow. So we are shooting Pactor Factor.
That's a man who uses a travel agent.
Exactly, yeah, or his wife takes care of a lot of stuff for him. So anyway, we are shooting Pactor this Friday, so expect an episode probably Friday night or Saturday. Sorry that there's been a bit of a gap between episodes, but not much we can do when the man is out of town. He's like overseas or something.
We could like get an impersonator.
Do
not Michael Pactor, but an amazing simulation.
It would be great if we could figure out like a Max Headroom type thing for Pac.
We get like Leffler to do him, like he did
Stan
Lee on the old show.
Yeah. That actually isn't a bad
Michael
idea.
Pactor experience. The fifth best thing.
I also want to say thank you guys to those of you guys who either bumped up your pledge or are new pledges for Sifted. We took a big hit last month. We lost our biggest pledge, our biggest patron. He had to lower his pledge, but you guys have pitched in and almost got us back to ground zero in a month's time. So thank you very much. I also specifically want to call out a few new people. We have more people on our Give Me Credit crawl, which is what you're seeing down below right now. We have the most people ever for Give Me Credit, which is $30 or more per month. I want to thank any of you guys who bumped up your pledge to that amount. We also had 3 guys who just joined that tier for the first time: Delbert Sparks, Devin Johnson, and Glenn with the extra N. And Glenn actually does not spell his name with the extra N, which is pretty funny. But anyway, thanks to you guys for either bumping up your pledge or becoming new pledges. We really, really appreciate it. It's helped us out a ton after losing one of our biggest patrons. What else? The next few episodes of GameFace are just going to be awesome. Wall to wall. There are so many great games that we have. I'm trying to figure out how to budget my time right now.
Big games. Let's not go great just yet.
Yeah, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. But the next few episodes of the show are going to be amazing. Some of the best of the year. So glad that you guys are along for the ride, and hopefully you'll come back next week and the week after that.
Come back next week for Death Stranding.
Yeah. Leading up to our Game of the Year awards that we do every year, where we hand out like 20-plus awards. That usually goes down the second week of December and is typically our last show of the year before we head out for the holidays. So GameFace from here on out is just going to be awesome. We have so many great games to talk about today and the next several weeks going. So let's just get straight to it. We're going to kick things off with BlizzCon 2019. We talked about it last week on the show, and we were kind of predicting what was going to happen based upon the information we had, and we pretty much nailed it. There were some leaks that helped us a little bit. Like we knew kind of that Overwatch 2 was going to be shown.
Yeah, but we nailed what it was.
We absolutely did. Yeah. So
even if it took a couple days of people trying to get them to clarify.
Yeah. So before we get to the games at BlizzCon, we're going to talk a little bit about the controversy around Blizzard and BlizzCon one last time. At least I think, unless Blizzard does something insane again.
Yeah, I mean.
So there were supposed to be protests at BlizzCon, and there were, but it was literally like 20 people.
Yeah, which is also what I thought.
I thought there would be more than that.
I didn't think there would be, just because it's out of the way. I mean, if it had been downtown LA, probably, but like getting down to Anaheim for that is a haul.
Yeah.
Especially because if you're not already going to BlizzCon, which I think most people that care about that issue probably aren't.
Yeah.
Although Disneyland apparently did staff up its security those days, so it made some impact.
It made them spend more money to cover their butts.
Made the mouse spend some cash.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing, though. Not that I was rooting for the protests or anything, but I just kind of figured it would be bigger than it was. And literally, it was.
I mean, a lot of people did. There were people that I knew that were going that were worried about, like, what do I do if like violence breaks? Like that
didn't happen.
They thought like riots were going to happen. I'm just like, no, it's going to be like 20 people, and they'll have signs, and they'll have to stay at the way far end of the fucking
away from the entrance.
Yeah, because that there's a whole long like entrance with all the flanked by the hotels that you walk up with like reflecting pools and stuff to get to the actual convention center. And that's all part of the same complex. So they'd have to be way out on the sidewalk where like you can barely see anything. So because you can't have anybody in the way of food trucks.
Yeah, so that ended up being kind of a non-story, and I was surprised that it was so small. And then things kicked off, and Blizzard's CEO did the welcome speech for BlizzCon and apologized, kind of. He basically apologized for Blizzard's response to what happened, but then refused to change Blizzard's ruling on the situation.
And also didn't say what he was apologizing. If you didn't know this was a thing that happened, you would have been so confused. During this
you'd have been like, what is he talking about?
Yeah. It sounds real. It sounds like he did something bad. I mean, it wasn't an apology, really. It was just like, yeah, we didn't expect this was going to be the reaction, so we're sorry that we didn't think that was going to happen. Not that we are sorry that we did it, but sorry that, like, we're sorry. It was almost
sorry that what we did got the reaction we didn't expect.
Yeah,
basically,
it was almost we're sorry you feel that way.
Yeah, that was kind of what it was.
It was one of the worst corporate apologies I have ever seen in my entire life.
It was terrible.
It was very bad.
And then here's something that I think a lot of people don't even realize it happened, and I only realized it because we do this show. I was doing research on what happened at BlizzCon, and I noticed that no matter what search term I used for BlizzCon, the first 2 pages of results were Blizzard official results. So Blizzard spent the money to buy out all the SEO terms for BlizzCon, and I don't think like Diablo or Overwatch had that treatment, but BlizzCon, if you search for it, first 2 pages of results, like it got down to like meta stuff on the BlizzCon webpage as far as the results are concerned. If you wanted like a synopsis of what actually happened at BlizzCon, it was on the 3rd page. So that's smart, but it's also dirty.
Yeah.
Basically, Blizzard was trying to make sure when people who didn't know what was going on went to search for this stuff, they had to go to the 3rd page to find it. So there was definitely some slimy subterfuge stuff going on, and that's not cheap, by the way. If you want to buy out a search term on Google, for example, when I worked at Spike, we had to promote a show for Spike called Coal. It was a show about coal miners, like a reality show. And we're trying to figure out how to promote it, and one of the things that we did was we bought the search term for coal for a day. So on the day of the show's premiere, if anybody searched for coal, the first result was going to be Spike's new TV show, Coal. And there were only 80,000 searches per day for coal in the world. And we had to pay $40,000 for one day of that search term. Think about that.
So BlizzCon probably cost a lot more.
A lot of money. So they spent a lot of money to try to kind of avoid spreading the virus, so to speak, based upon what had happened leading up to BlizzCon. And then after the apology, non-apology, and the show kicked off, everybody just forgot about all that because Blizzard rolled out both Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2. Let's start first with Diablo 4. My first, and I hate to admit it, my first impressions of it are that it looks freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Diablo guy, and I feel like the last couple entries have got away from what I really liked about Diablo in the first place. I know people will argue against that. So there are some people that hate the first 2 games now compared to like the third one.
I mean, I like the third one, but I do feel like the rune system makes things feel a little less decisive and a little less special.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, I like what we saw. This is one of the best CG trailers in the history of video games.
Well, it's Blizzard.
It is Blizzard.
I expect nothing less.
It's also our friend Patrick Rochoa.
Oh, really?
He was a producer on this trailer.
Oh, wow.
So
he did a great job.
One of our XG4 guys making good over at Blizzard, making awesome trailers.
That's great.
So congratulate him on Twitter if you can
find
him on there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny. Like he said on Twitter, like I was involved in this, and it's great. It's really happening. It was just, and all the replies were all people I know. It was just like, everybody. It was all mutual friends. It's like because the industry's tight like that.
It is. Yeah.
And I mean, it's a great trailer.
Oh, it is.
It's like 8 minutes.
I mean,
long.
both of them are. The cinematic one's amazing, and just the gameplay trailer that really just shows off the game.
Too. I mean, you can see they're really like intentionally avoiding color.
Really dark.
After the Diablo 3 response.
I mean, I love the tone of the whole thing. It's all like muted grays and browns and.
And it's got a lot of references to like the old lore, but it expands it obviously with the new villain.
Yep.
There's a flesh cape, which is cool. It's a great setup. Like it's a great way to be like, I want to play this and I want to jump right in from here.
Yeah.
And also sort of the things like, guys, you could just make movies. Like, I would watch this movie.
Yeah.
I would watch the Overwatch movie.
I mean, they kind of tried to do that with World of Warcraft. Didn't work out so
but
well.
don't farm it out to a stupid studio.
yourselves.
Like do it yourselves in house.
Like a CG film,
Do a
you
CG
mean.
film. Like
Yeah.
literally this, but
90 minutes
10
or
times
2 hours,
longer.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a bigger market for that than poorly made Warcraft films.
Yep, I would agree.
And even the World of Warcraft expansion trailer, way better than anything in the Warcraft movie.
Yeah, I mean, it may not come out in theaters, but that doesn't matter.
Right.
The fans would find it and support it.
You could just say, if you want to watch this, you got to log into BlizzNet or BattleNet.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, done.
Yeah.
Or it comes with the next game expansion or so. Like what?
Right.
I mean, it would be a nice perk. I mean, you have to spend a lot of money on it.
Yeah,
but you spend a lot of money on these already.
You do. Yeah. But there's a difference between like $5 million and
right. But I mean, just like team up
million.
with Netflix or something and call it a day. You know,
That's actually a good idea.
I mean, Castlevania's doing real well on Netflix. Like, I don't see any reason a Diablo series like that looks like this wouldn't.
Yeah, I agree. 1,000%.
But they're getting a little sidetracked here.
Yep, as we sometimes do. What did you think about the limited amounts of gameplay that they showed?
I mean, it seems understandable considering they said it's not coming soon.
Yeah, this is the
not
rub.
even Blizzard soon.
Yeah,
which is like, ooh.
That means like 2022.
Yeah, like this game's a long way out.
That showed me how desperate Blizzard was
they knew they had to show
divert the narrative away from what was happening.
I mean, obviously they were planning to do this, I think, anyway, because this
trailer, they didn't make it overnight.
Yeah, this didn't start last month, you know,
for sure.
But I could definitely see them maybe wanting to hold off until next year originally, and they're like, well, you know, we should probably just pull all the stops out.
We also got to remember too, last year people expected this game to show up,
right.
and it wasn't there.
Diablo Immortal, the mobile game.
Everyone railed
which was
on.
not even mentioned this year.
That's true, actually.
Wisely, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew. Also, because Diablo Immortal is clearly being made for the Chinese market.
Right. That's just.
You don't want any of that being. You don't want any of those dots connected.
No,
so.
Definitely not.
But I mean, it looks really cool. I will admit, like, I am not inclined to give Blizzard any more money until they, fix their stance on this Hong Kong thing. Which, to be fair, by the time this game comes out, that whole situation may well be resolved one way or the other.
Dust in the wind. Yeah, no one will even remember it.
Maybe it won't matter what their stance is anymore because Hong Kong will be free or Hong Kong will be crushed into submission, and who knows.
Yeah.
But so the real world may take care of that for them by that point. But
Yep.
right now, I'm not inclined to be very supportive of them.
I wonder how many people feel like you do. I mean, based upon the small protest at BlizzCon, I'm guessing not that many.
I mean, probably a fair amount. But I mean, one of the reasons I wouldn't protest there is because who gives a shit?
Right.
Like, it's not going to change anything.
Yeah, they're not.
Like, no one's
not going to. I mean, they knew the protest was coming, and their CEO still didn't really apologize.
No,
so
and there's still there's no media presence there beyond normal game media stuff, and everybody who's paying attention to game media already knows what happened, and you're not spreading any awareness. I mean, you get more results holding up signs in the corner of Hollywood and Highland.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me at all that the protest was very small. I don't think that comments on the seriousness or widespread opinion of the issue. I think it just comments on who the hell wants to go down to Anaheim for nothing.
Yeah.
Especially because it was very hot that week.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was nothing though. I mean, wasn't it playable on the floor?
Yeah, I mean, it was playable. I
mean, think about it. If you were one of the people who got to play Diablo 3 or 4 years before it comes out, that's a pretty big deal.
That's fine.
That's a selling point.
I mean, it'll probably be very different by the time it comes out and you play it. I'm a little disappointed in the classes so far. I mean, I don't like the Barbarian.
That was my next question.
The Wizard looks cool, but I'm a Necromancer fan, and I'm kind of hoping this time we don't have to buy an expansion a year and a half after or maybe it was longer after the game came out. When did they put out the Necromancer?
No, it was about 18 months, I think.
Yeah. Also, I like the Necromancer better in Diablo 2. Because you can have the whole army of skeletons, and with the rune system, it doesn't let you stack stuff as much. You can either have these skeletons, or you can have a golem, or you can have. I didn't feel like you get to overwhelm the enemy the way you did in Diablo 2.
It is interesting that we've reached a place with games.
I was disappointed they did not mention the Diablo 2 remaster.
Yeah, they kind of brushed that under the rug. It is interesting that we have reached a point with games where you just don't expect everything to be in the product that you should expect to be in the product.
Mm-hmm.
you're like, yep, this character I'm just assuming is not going to be there at launch, and it's going to be something that comes later, and I have to pay for. Like it's
just something that Diablo 3 started in this year, because normally in series like this, you would never assume that a class would disappear.
Right.
From
once it's there,
you add them, but you don't take them away.
Right. Yeah.
Like I was really annoyed by Diablo.
I mean, you're seeing that with Pokemon Sword and Shield.
I mean,
I'm sure you saw the list today came out, and there's just randomly they just omitted like a lot of the original 151.
Oh wow! So it was 5 years between the release of the game and the release of the Necromancer.
5 years?
According to Shellburn, there. Yeah.
What?
May 2012. Necrorule came out in June 2017.
Wow.
I thought it was really long.
It's hard to believe that Diablo 3 came out in 2012.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the last big releases before G4 shut down.
Yeah. That's crazy to think about. Yeah, I had forgotten that it came out while I was still at Game Trailers.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a pretty old game.
Yeah, for sure. And we still have to wait a few more years for the sequel.
I mean, it's looking like it's going to be 10 years between...
Yeah, that is kind of the Diablo Blizzard plan.
Diablo 2 is 2000.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it works, unfortunately. StarCraft, for whatever reason, seems to be a franchise they get to a little more often.
I think because StarCraft has the competitive scene, and Diablo just, I mean, there's the ladder stuff and the season stuff and that kind of thing, but it doesn't have, there's no esports element to it.
For sure.
But they do seem to be pushing PvP on this a little weirdly hard. Yeah. But I don't care about that.
Yeah, I don't either. I just want to play the campaign.
Yep.
So
over and over and over.
Yeah.
And I will at least. I mean, I actually remember I had trouble starting Diablo 3 because I couldn't decide between the classes because I didn't care about any of them. I'm like, none of these look very good, and I ended up picking a sorcerer, I think, and I put him in green and I named him Low Key because it came out right after Avengers 1 came out. That's how old that game is.
There you go.
It came out at the same time as Avengers 1.
Pop culture reference.
But. I mean, yeah, I'm interested. It looks really cool, but I can't get too excited about something that's that far away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Overall, how would you rate the debut of Diablo 4?
Oh, I'd probably give it an A.
Yeah.
I mean, you got this trailer. You got it's playable on the floor even this far out from release.
And there's gameplay up on YouTube.
Yeah,
and
it's all it's none of it's like hidden behind anything. Like it's just here it is.
Yeah.
Like check it out. Here we go.
Yeah, I'd have to give it an A too.
Like
as much as it begrudgingly.
Yeah, I mean the only thing you could bump it to an A+ as a release date.
Yeah, which they kind of gave.
They gave us a win. I mean, they gave us more than Bethesda did.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
We'll probably be playing this around the same time as Starfield, frankly.
That's probably accurate. What did you think about the in-game visuals?
Look good.
Yeah.
Like I like that they
as good as you thought they were going to look.
Yeah, about there. And I like that they you can see they're emphasizing like kind of breaking. One of the things that like I think has been a restriction on this sort of game for a long time has been sort of no matter what the environments are like, you're still sort of stuck on that path.
Yep.
That you can cook. But they're showing like these characters jumping across gaps and riding their horse around like these bigger environments, like more variety in where you can walk, basically.
Yes, and it doesn't appear to be as linear.
Yeah, it looks like you can have abilities that jump you over gaps, and so you're not stuck going around the long way all the time. Like I like that. Like free, like that's really like the direction you need to push this genre now. I think is freeing up the mobility options.
I think these shots too, where they show like the land and like this big open territory. That's not really something that they focused on when promoting Diablo in the past.
No.
So,
although I do think it is getting like even just watching this footage, there's part of me that's like, is that sort of 3/4 perspective really the way you need to go with this anymore?
Don't you think people would revolt if they didn't do the isometric?
They absolutely would.
Yeah, they'd be pissed.
But if it's better, it's better.
It is, yeah.
You know?
And they come around once they played it and realize.
Just like Resident Evil 4.
Right.
You know?
That's true. Yeah.
Like I remember people saying it's not real Resident Evil if it's not like if it doesn't.
But it's better
if it doesn't control like complete shit.
Right.
But but like this, I mean, because it's especially with how good these graphics look. At a certain point, it's a shame to be looking at them from a drone camera. You know?
It is weird. Yeah. I mean, I don't play a ton of isometric action RPGs anymore, but I will play this one. Absolutely. I mean, they're the creme de la creme of the genre at this point. So, looking pretty good. Toothless Gibbon asks in the chat, what do you think about the fact that they announced it for Xbox One and PS4?
Cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not a surprise. It's already been on console.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be on Xbox One and PS4 and the next systems and everything. Also, I like that because I like playing Diablo 3 with controller better. and
Yeah.
controller never came to PC because the engine apparently they'd have to rip it apart and put it back together to make it work. But that indicates to me that the PC version will support controller out of the gate, which is good.
It also makes me wonder, though, if maybe it's not that far off, because knowing that these consoles are going to basically become obsolete in 12 months.
I think either that's placeholder and they can't say the new system's name or whatever, or I think they're not going to ignore that crazy huge install base on those existing systems.
Even if it's like 2 years after they're relevant.
They can make it run on the old system. So I'm sure it'll be on everything. And also if it's if it's what we're assuming that you're going to be able to play these, you're going to buy a PlayStation game and it'll work on the 4 and the 5, and same with Xbox. It's automatically on those systems.
So, it just organically happens. I'm guessing that'll be the same case with
I think so.
The next Xbox.
So it's
But I love the art.
Looks really great. But it reminds me of Witcher a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
In the sense more that it's going back to the old style, like art styles. I mean, I didn't mind the colorful stuff in 3. I thought 3 looked really good.
This is definitely more traditional looking.
This feels a lot more like Diablo 1.
Yeah.
In terms of art direction.
Yep.
And I do not have a single problem with that.
Nor do I. Next up, as we talked about.
Also, it's super gross, which I think was a thing missing from Diablo.
Yeah, it's really gory.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gore is so small. You have to almost use a magnifying glass to see
even
it.
like there's the sliminess, I know like snakes aren't slimy, but like that giant snake going through that one shot, like you can look the glistening on the scale, like you can feel, what it would feel like to touch that thing.
Yeah.
And
I think it looks
really
great.
good.
I mean, it's not coming out for a couple years.
Yeah,
so
I mean that'll be some good ray tracing.
Yeah, imagine what this is going to look like on a top of the line rig
cutting
in
edge,
2 years. It's
sure.
going to be amazing. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about Overwatch 2. Again, as we tipped you guys off to on last week's episode, as it turns out, it was legit. We were kind of skeptical.
We didn't talk about the online thing.
Oh, we didn't. Oh, that's right. Okay, let's rewind then.
Because that's the one note on the script.
That's a good point, actually. It was announced just today that Diablo 4, you will not be able to play it unless you're connected. And this has been a topic that has been debated for 5 years now, not just with Blizzard.
And Diablo 3 had that too, but people assumed it was like a vestige of having that stupid auction house that they cut out. But apparently this is just how we're going to do it.
Just the way it is. Why do you think that it's the way it is?
I mean, presumably it's a anti-piracy, anti-cheat thing. That's just the easiest way to do it without sticking crazy DRM things in there. I mean, do I care? Not really, because I'm always online anyway. But like, I say that now, but then it's going to be like one time when my internet's out and I want to play Diablo and it doesn't work. But and even 2 years from now, it's going to be even less of an issue. It's like you're always online with these consoles and the PC anyway. So.
You're right. It's just going to become more prevalent as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean,
it's one of those things that you don't like it, but there's really no use fighting.
If you don't like it, like the battle's lost.
Yeah,
like that's not. It's like paying for online on consoles. Like,
if you can only get 22 people to show up for democracy, no one's going to complain about the always online. It's just not going to happen. Okay, so now we've put the cap on Diablo 4, and let's move on to Overwatch 2. Most of the details we gave on last week's episode ended up being 100% right and correct. First of all, going back to sort of the controversy around Blizzard, I don't know if you saw or not, but an Overwatch coach tweeted in support of Hong Kong, was asked to delete the tweet. This was after all the stuff had happened earlier.
How's the boot taste, Blizzard?
Yeah.
Like, it's not great.
It's really crazy, man. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. It's
corporate shit.
It's tough because it's basically your job. You're placed in a position, and we're going to get to a very similar situation a little later on in the show, where you're put in a position between your morality and your vocation. And it's a tough decision. And I don't think there's any right decision when that happens. Like, I can't begrudge somebody who has a wife, a mortgage, and 3 kids having to stay at a job that maybe he's not 100% supportive of how they handle things culturally. It's just a tough position to be put in. So, but yeah, an Overwatch esports coach had to delete a tweet at Blizzard's request, or at Activision Blizzard's request. That's great. But let's talk about the game Overwatch 2. First, I want to know, because your girlfriend is a gigantic Overwatch fan, what does she think of it?
She doesn't really care.
She doesn't care?
Not really. She likes the PvE stuff, but she's not super into it. And like, She's checking out of Overwatch.
Oh, okay,
slowly.
so she's just kind of fizzled out on the game.
Like the GOAT stuff in the competitive this year has really seemed to kind of take her out of it. Like she still likes the characters and thought this was a cool trailer and everything. But so put it this way, she was at Disneyland with her brother most of the week during BlizzCon and the whole thing. She didn't go to BlizzCon. She just went to Disneyland with her brother. And when she came back, I'm like, so what'd you think about it? She's like, oh, I haven't watched it yet.
Wow.
So she didn't watch it until she got home, like days later.
That's surprising.
And she liked it. I mean, look, I liked it too. I don't even play this game.
Great. Yeah.
I didn't play this game, and like when they all got together, like, oh, is Overwatch back? And Winston's like, yeah, I think we are. I'm like,
I got the feels.
Got a little verklempt. I was like,
so did I.
Yeah,
I got the feels.
Because
I don't even care. Like you.
And do you know why? It's because the music is so manipulative and good. Like the music makes you feel what they want you to feel.
This short really is amazing.
It's really good.
Like you're talking about like something that should be in theaters or what? Like
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, all these CG shorts for Overwatch are just incredible, and it's so crazy because the game up until now has done a terrible job of fleshing this stuff out. But
and I think it still will.
But I mean,
the reviews of the PvE of the missions and PvE stuff from the floor were not positive.
Oh, really?
Like the missions are fine, and the story, but like everyone's like, it's not a quantum. It's just Overwatch PvE with like some story cutscenes in it. Like,
oh, really?
I think
so. It's not like a campaign.
I mean, there is, but there's a campaign in the way there was a campaign in like. Battlefront 1, where you could just play through like it's just the co-op multiplayer with some cutscenes before and after,
right?
Which they've already done,
right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what's the big deal?
It's just there's just more of them this time, and there's like the missions that are hero specific, where they basically assign you a team of heroes and you all have to play it and beat a particular thing. That's about it, and it's I'm sure it'll be fine, but it's like. I don't want to play that. I'd prefer to play a single-player campaign that delves it because I think
this universe is amazing.
It is an absolute shame all this lore and character work and backstory is wasted on a multiplayer shooter.
And from day one, I mean, the first trailer for the first Overwatch was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure part of that's because it's basically it was plucked from the ashes of an MMO project. I mean, I'm sure some of that's just there
leftovers.
There's people at Blizzard whose entire job is just to write lore.
Yeah, and create characters.
But like, I would love to see these things showcased in a way beyond just mindless multiplayer shooter. Like it's just a shame that they're stuck here.
And Blizzard of all publishers should know this better than anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a master at telling stories in its games,
and I think you're finally hitting the point because, like, for a long time, she and her friends were very. I mean, every single hint about new character, every hint about a new character video coming out.
Yeah, she was hooked.
And like they just don't even talk about it.
It fizzled out. Huh.
The biggest response was they were making fun of Genji wearing pants.
Well, fair enough.
Which a lot of people believe that Blizzard did because people kept talking about how Genji was naked.
They
decided you didn't have pants on. And like it's like, oh, he's naked. How come he doesn't have a dick and all this? And like look at his butt. He's got a cyber butt and kind of thing. And so now like they put pants on him, ostensibly to stop that. But now it's like all you just did was prove he's always been naked.
Naked, yeah. That's pretty funny. There was a couple other announcements around this game. There's a new mode called Push.
Yeah.
Where you have like a gigantic robot.
Yeah, robot push, which is amazing because it's like players are so bad at playing the objective, we gave you a robot to do it.
Pretty much.
That's basically what that mode is.
And I don't mind because I hated that part of it.
Yeah,
like I hated having to push.
But that was so much part of the strategy that I wonder what the change is, how they're going to balance
like time management, making sure you had time to push while you fought and all that kind of stuff. It did add kind of a layer of strategy to the game. My guess is Blizzard has replaced that with something. Mm-hmm. We'll see. There's a new map.
Yep, Toronto.
That takes place in Toronto.
Had some friends who live there making fun of the subway map.
Oh, really?
There's a subway map when you go down in the underground. There's a map of the Toronto subway, which is about 10 times more subway stops than the Toronto subway system is not extensive.
It's small, yeah.
And I'm like, well, in the Overwatch universe, public transit is more highly valued.
It's also like centuries from now. Yeah, I mean, it probably will be that big then, to be honest with you. And then what's up with Rio de Janeiro?
That's where the Omnic Crisis flashpoint was.
Is it actually a new map or not?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. But they've made a big deal about that map as well.
Yeah, well, that Rio de Janeiro is where the big battle with the Omnics took place.
Yeah,
or something like that. So lore wise, Rio is a very important place.
Okay. And then a new character was announced as well. Are you surprised there was just one?
No, I mean,
really, for a sequel, that seems crazy.
Well, there's going to be a lot more in the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, as time goes on.
Well, no, it'll launch with 6 or 7.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, they're just only showing one now. They're gonna drip feed you the launch characters for the next 2 years or something.
Do you think it's 2 years till this comes out?
They have no idea when it's coming out. They said on stage, we don't know when this is coming out, but we wanted to show it to you.
So is all BlizzCon just a bunch of smoke and mirrors, pretty much? Is that what it's really coming down to?
I mean, it wouldn't shock me if this came out next year. But they sure weren't committing to it. And
because if the campaign or the single player PvE stuff isn't as extensive as people think it was or it was going to be or should be, then maybe it doesn't take that long to get the game. I
mean, this is an expansion. Yeah, this is a PvE expansion.
That's what it seems like. Yeah,
especially because they're doing the thing where basically it's exactly like I predicted. If you have Overwatch, it's just going to become Overwatch 2, and you're just going to have to pay for the PvE if you want it. But the multiplayer is all going to be the same. You're going to keep all your progress, all your unlocks. You're literally just going to get a different title screen and a new outfit.
Yeah, it's cross-franchise.
Yeah.
When I wrote the blurb, I was like, I think that is a new phrase. Cross-franchise.
Well, yeah, because we used to just release an expansion.
Right.
But they're calling it Overwatch. It's weird they're calling it Overwatch 2, I think. It would have been maybe a little more effective to call it Overwatch :
whatever
subtitle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's a whiteboard somewhere in Irvine that's just covered in rejected titles for this thing. But... calling it Overwatch 2 feels a little strange.
It feels cheap to call it Overwatch. This is not really.
They're trying to force a reboot sort of thing where it doesn't really need it. It just needs more.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, the new content is a new mode, a new character, and a new map.
Yeah,
and that's Overwatch 2. That seems pretty skimpy to me.
Yeah, I mean they've had regular updates that were more robust than that. Really,
I wonder if...
Also, I thought it was funny that they're like, oh, new look, and I'm like, they all look the same,
exactly the same.
And there's an actual website where you can click on each character, and there's a little slider, and you run the little thing back and forth across them, and it goes from their original Overwatch 1 look to their Overwatch 2 look. And the fact that you felt the need to even make that website,
it should be obvious.
Yeah,
you shouldn't have to.
I mean, there's skins you can get in Overwatch 1 that change the characters far more than they are in their new Overwatch 2 outfits.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with the first Overwatch when Overwatch 2 is released? Do you think they'll drop it to $10 or whatever?
Oh, it's going to cease to exist.
Oh, well, I guess it doesn't need to exist anymore.
What would it be?
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't need. Yeah, there's really no need to buy it or anything.
No.
Yeah,
Overwatch is Overwatch. Just the environment's going to change over. They're going to slap a 2 on the logo, and that's what Overwatch is.
I guess now that you're cross-franchise, it's just this platform that moves forward with a different number.
Yeah, Overwatch is it's going to be like a Ship of Theseus thing. Yeah, you're just going to replace all the parts, and you're going to be. Is it the same game? I don't know. It's but yeah, Overwatch 1 wouldn't even be anything anymore. It'd just be the old map. I guess you could maybe put in the disc of a console version and refuse to update it and play a bot.
That would be fun.
But yeah, I mean it's an online living game, and this is what it's going to be now with all the cross-play. What's the difference?
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter anymore. I'm sure there'll still be copies of Overwatch lying around in retail stores. I wonder what they'll do. I wonder what they'll do with them.
You mean if you buy a Overwatch copy and I don't know how. I mean, they'd have to be new because you'd have to register the code with Battle.net one or the other. I mean, I assume that'll just give you Overwatch.
Yeah,
Overwatch in
it'll
general,
just give you the content that you got with the base.
The whole multiplayer thing, all the free patches up to that point, and then you would have to pay the Overwatch 2 fee to get the PvE stuff, the hero missions, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be dumb to buy that at that time.
Yeah,
you should just buy Overwatch 2.
Just buy Overwatch 2 from Battle.net, really. I mean, that's what they want.
Yep.
But it'd be like the StarCraft 2 stuff where you could keep incrementally upgrading to Heart of the Swarm and that kind of thing.
It makes sense.
The business model seems to work for them, so
yeah,
why not?
Yep. A couple other things, just kind of off the cuff mentioned. World of Warcraft Shadowlands, a new expansion for World of Warcraft that is not vanilla. It seems like we haven't really heard anything about real World of Warcraft lately.
The non-classic.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't really anything happening.
Yeah, but it's funny, like, they kind of just shifted their focus to the original, like, vanilla versions. And
Well, clearly they were also still working on this.
Yeah, for sure. We just didn't hear about it for a really long time. And again, another incredible trailer from Blizzard for this. Any chance of this energizing your interest in WoW and going back and playing
God,
it?
no.
I didn't think so.
I mean, even
it's a lost cause for me.
They even showed some stuff of it, some footage of it. And it's just like, yeah, that sure is WoW.
Yeah.
Like you can show this all day, but I know that the actual gameplay is just like click.
Yeah. Hack.
Don't care.
Return.
It's not a fun game, but again, I'd watch the movie.
Yeah.
But not the movie, but I'd watch this movie.
I did watch the movie.
I watched the movie.
It was not great.
Nope.
That might even be generous, to be honest with
you. The most interesting and human characters in the whole movie were the CG orcs.
Yeah.
The hell does that happen?
I'll say this: some of the CG in that movie was like mind blowing.
Oh yeah,
it was literally like photorealistic, and you're looking at orcs. It's like I believe that an orc can exist now after seeing that movie because they did such a good job of making it seem plausible. But did they say when this is coming out? This next expansion?
We got no
dates for any of it,
really.
No,
except I think maybe Hearthstone's expansion did.
This was basically just a "Don't hate us" convention.
Yeah,
is what it comes
like,
to.
Hey, we're making all those things that you're addicted to.
Still,
don't throw the heroin out with the bathwater.
Yep. And then Warcraft 3 Reforged was shown, and there's a beta coming for that. I think maybe it's live now. Actually,
I don't know.
Any interest in this?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be super against playing that again, but it's like, who has the time? Like, maybe if I got really bored next spring.
Yeah.
After the 4,000 games come out that I'm already waiting for.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But it's just, I mean, certainly I'm not against remasters or like replaying like old favorites, but like there's a point at which like where exactly do I have time to replay a remastered RTS from 15 some years ago?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about EA here in a little bit, so we'll test that question a little bit. And then other than that, the Heroes of the Storm has new content coming, which actually is a surprise.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought that game was pretty much abandoned.
I mean, it kind of is abandoned. It's been a really long time since they updated. And it used to be literally like every other day they would have some kind of update. I mean, if you go to the Heroes of the Storm page on Sifted, it is just hundreds and hundreds of trailers. And then they just stopped. They just, out of nowhere, just stopped. The game, obviously, they didn't take it down or anything, but they just stopped promoting it. They stopped supporting it with new content. And then at BlizzCon, it looks like they're throwing people a bone. So looks like they're going to at least, I think it's not like a lot. It's not like a new battleground or anything like that. It's like some tweaks to some existing characters and then I think like 2 new ones or something. So it's not a lot. I still think that if you're an aspiring esports athlete and you're looking to get into a MOBA, I highly recommend staying away from Heroes of the Storm. Just go to League of Legends and be done with it, because that game, no matter what,
conform.
Seriously though, I mean, it's going to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to be a pro football player, you learn how to play NFL football, not Canadian football. So I think that's what you should be targeting if you're an aspiring esports athlete, because we all know tons of people like that.
Oh, yeah.
As in none. I know no aspiring esports athletes. Not even any of my nephews or cousins or anything. None of them are like that.
No, nobody wants that life.
Yeah, it doesn't look very glamorous, although people, playing games for a living, everything always sounds better than...
Yeah, but you're not playing games for a living. You're playing game for a living.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I would want to do it.
I can't play the same game for more than 2 weeks, really.
Yeah.
I get bored.
Yeah. League of Legends is pretty much the only one that I do. So there you go. That's BlizzCon 2019. We just put a bow on it. But I think, I would sum it up as smoke and mirrors. That's the best way for me to sum up BlizzCon 2019. There wasn't much there that we're actually going to be experiencing in the next 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, I mean, there was the Hearthstone thing. I think the World of Warcraft thing is, I mean, probably next. I'll be shocked if it wasn't next year. Something's got to come out next year.
Yeah, I actually forgot to bring up Hearthstone Battlegrounds. They're
their auto battler.
It's an auto battler.
I had to look up what that was.
Yeah.
I still don't really get it.
I don't really get it either. It's like you stack your deck and the game plays for you.
Yeah, it's basically like you have set decks and it's like an 8 player thing, and it just sort of plays itself out, I guess.
Why?
I don't know.
Why would you not want to play?
I figure
it?
this is like this has got to be some kind of offshoot of like the idle clicker game thing.
Yeah.
And then they got an expansion coming that's all dragon themed, which is like that's how you know you're out of ideas.
Yep. When you you default to the dragons.
When in doubt, dragons.
It always works. So anyway, that's BlizzCon 2019. I would give it. If I knew those games were coming soon, like I would absolutely give it an A. But knowing that this was just like, hey, we need to keep people happy, and I don't know what they're going to do next year when they roll up and they're like, yep, all those games we showed you last year still aren't available. But I don't know. For this year, I'd probably give them like a B minus, C plus, something like that.
Like a C plus. I mean, C plus is about right. The quality of what they showed is very good, but it's just it all felt like hey, look over here,
Dog
look over
and
here.
pony show.
It's like, yeah.
Distraction.
So, and they didn't. They just didn't deliver. You know, all you had to do was unban that guy,
Pretty much,
and the casters,
and make sure he got all his money.
and
that's that.
That's it. But they couldn't even do that.
I don't think it's they. Well, they if you include the parent company, maybe, but
It's not their parent company. I mean, Tencent only owns 4% of them.
yeah. But then why are they doing this?
Because they want that market. And China can just tell you to go away. They can just say, no, you're not allowed in here anymore. That's what they're worried about. It's not about their parent company thing. It's Tencent has no control over anything there. What they have control over is Tencent can go to the Chinese government and be like, hey, these guys are saying shit.
Tencent would never do that though, because it'd be cutting off their own nose.
Well, they probably wouldn't need to because
they know everything that's
China
going
pays
on
attention
anyway.
anyway.
They do, yeah, for sure.
So it's pathetic.
The answer was very easy to just stop it and end it right now, and they couldn't do it.
No, it's too much money on the line.
It's crazy. That's the way it is, though. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about what I believe is the hardest game I've ever played.
Yeah.
I'm not even exaggerating, Matt.
I mean, there's probably a few that like badly made Apple IIe games that were
They were broken.
Harder. Yeah, like,
as far as like
didn't
intentionally
care.
difficult, I think Nioh 2 is the most difficult game I've ever played.
It is very hard.
Oh my gosh!
The first enemy one-shotted me.
Yeah, like the
amazing.
a dude just wandering down the trail.
Like, oh, here's this dude. I could get our first fight. Okay, and he like does this little charge move, tackles me to the ground, stabs me 3 times. I'm dead.
You're dead.
I'm like, wow.
Oh yeah,
that was fast.
Oh my gosh! Holy cow! This game is like impossible.
Yeah, this is the opposite. Like, clearly, Team Ninja has decided like, oh, everyone else is trying to make Dark Souls stuff more accessible. Fuck that noise.
Oh yeah,
we're going the other way and we're running.
Oh yeah, if you're one of the people who is a huge Dark Souls fan and you hate that they're starting to make it for people like me,
yeah,
here you go.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I am no Dark Souls newcomer. This is too hard.
It's too hard.
I was not having fun playing this. And at a certain point, because I got the boss on the bridge. There's a big monster you have to fight on a bridge, and I tried him like 4 or 5 times. I got his health down like half once. But at a certain point, I was like, okay, I'm not having fun. I don't have the patience for this right now. And even if I get past this, I have to do it again when the game comes out.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna stop.
Yeah.
Like I played like an hour of this and just I was like, you know what? That's enough. That's enough for today.
Yeah, I didn't make it past the boss on the bridge either. I fought him like 3 times, and every time he just annihilated. It's one hit. He hits you one time, you die. And I was like, it's going to take me forever to figure out the patterns of this guy and try to defeat it. But it wasn't just him. It's like you said, everybody is a one-hit kill. It's like you find some dude crouched next to a campfire, and you sneak up on him from behind, and you're like, oh, I got this guy. And you lay into him with a combo. He, like, takes it and then slashes you once and kills you.
You have no guy. You have no idea who you're up against until they start killing you.
Yeah. It's
I mean, there's a lot of stuff to keep track of. Like, there's not just dodging and parrying. There's like and blocking. There's like this move does this, and this color around the enemy means you have to block it like this, and you get this other like burst move that can get you.
The info's all there.
It's all there, but it would take a long time to sort of like really make it all second nature, and it needs to be second nature, or you're not going to survive.
You can't be thinking about it.
I mean, the answer really is get good.
Yeah,
but like. I got shit. I got shit to do this week.
Yeah, this week. Like
also,
the rest of the year.
Also, I gotta say, as much as I appreciate kind of the mythology, like the Japanese mythology and folklore thing happening here, how cool all the monsters look and stuff. Sekiro really ruined me for swordplay. Like
Yeah.
the fact that it's just normal, like whacking a guy with a sword until the life bar goes away, like really is not as interesting to me as it would have been before Sekiro came out.
I mean, that is the closest analog is Sekiro.
In the sense that they're both samurai, but
Yeah.
like it's just Sekiro feels like such a tighter playing game to me because it's.
I don't know if I would say that.
Just,
they feel about the same as far as like the responsiveness. And
I do
all
not
that.
agree with that at all.
Really?
Like this game is so loose in comparison to how Sekiro worked. Like it took me forever to figure out just how long my damn sword was. I was continually swinging and missing guys because they were like half a foot further away than I thought they'd be in terms of where my sword was.
Yeah.
I
ended up using the dual axes for whatever stupid reason.
That might have been. I mean, I was using the sword and the Kusarigama, like one sword, standard sword plus like something with range, and I mean it worked, but like it was not. I don't know. As someone who's been through all the Dark Souls and most of those types of games, like, and most of Nioh 1, like I didn't have fun with any of this. It just felt like it was all out of my control.
Well, the subject matter of this franchise, I don't like it. Like they're talking about like Nobunaga, and like it's like really like you're going back to like Romance of the Three Kingdoms for the lore for your
that's
Souls clone.
That's not Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That's the feudal Japan.
I thought Romance of the Three Kingdoms was all about him and his...
Nobunaga is a Japanese warlord from feudal Japan. Romance of the Three Kingdoms is China.
Oh, I thought it was all about him for some reason.
No. It's just, I mean, the Warring States period is a similar kind of thing. Like it's like basically country fragments into tons of different little warlords, and Nobunaga more or less came out on top. That's what the Samurai Warriors games are about, whereas the Dynasty Warriors games are about the Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Right.
Separated by about 1,000 years, I think, a little more. But I mean, there's a reason they crossed those franchises over with Warriors Orochis because they are very similar things. So yeah, this is basically the first game anyway was kind of a retelling of historical events infused very strongly with a lot of like mythology.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Like I think this is some really interesting. Japanese mythical monsters, yokai, are fucking crazy.
They are crazy.
Bizarre.
And for those of you who don't know, you can transform into yokai in this franchise.
Yeah, you can because you have these like little
spirit creatures
that kind of
follow you around.
Yeah, and kind of define the character's personalities.
Yeah,
like he's the boar. He's a big dude with all the armor, and he's even got sort of tusks on his helmet there. And then the other guy there, the little guy who's like laughing and is like the negotiator's the fox.
Yeah,
because he's the clever one. And
so here comes Aquaman.
Yes.
How did you feel about this?
I mean, this is a real mythological figure.
Yeah, but he looks just like the cinematic Aquaman. I mean, you don't think that they ripped him straight out of the movie?
I didn't.
Well, they'll see here in a second that he looks
it
very similar.
It didn't enter my head.
Really?
No. Well, no.
That's the first thing I thought.
I don't know. He looks like a long-haired Japanese man to me.
He looks. What's that guy's name? Momoa.
Jason Momoa.
I mean, I don't know, man.
I mean, maybe
it looks a hell of a lot like.
I feel like he'd have more tattoos, but that would make him a yakuza. I guess.
Right.
Also, Aquaman isn't part fish. This guy's got scales on him.
Yeah, I mean, still.
I mean, he's got look at the
obvious. I think it's obvious what
some,
they were doing.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like it's. I guess it could be Aquaman meets Shape of Water.
Yeah, but like that opening cinematic is so corny and weird, and the dialogue is weird and stilted, and
yeah, I mean, it's Team Ninja.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was getting at. It's a game developed by Team Ninja, and
I mean, at least it didn't open with an Aerosmith song.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that's a good point. But it is a studio that's not particularly known for great storytelling. I guess
that's not what you're here for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really what you're here for in any of the Souls games, unless you're like a big on
crazy lore guy
digging through the lore with all the notes that you find and everything. Which,
yeah,
I mean, that's what wikis are for.
Yep.
I'll let somebody else do all the work on that.
Yeah, but so this is actually the demo that's out there, and I think it's still out there. I don't know. I don't know if they've taken it down yet. But you have to be connected to the internet to play this demo, which is a little odd.
Yeah, I don't know what that's. I mean, I guess they want to track
the data and
telemetry and stuff.
Yeah,
but I feel like there's not too worried about copy protection on the demo.
Nope, that's for sure. So when you die in this game, like a Souls-like, you leave behind a marker. And you have to go and pick it back up. If you don't pick it up before you die, it's gone.
Yeah, just like the normal. Although sometimes there is a small percentage of chance that you could keep your stuff. That happens once in a great while.
In this game?
Yeah, happened to me a couple times. Like I didn't lose my stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a 6% chance. Or something. It's like very.
You just got
low.
lucky.
Yeah.
But it does. I mean, I'll say this: like compared to Dark Souls, at least it does. Like you can't really do death from above in Dark Souls. It does.
Of course you can.
Really?
That's like a basic tactic. Yeah, I mean, they
I remember like in the first one, like the one boss fight on the bridge. Like it's awkward though. Like in Dark Souls.
I mean, this one has more of a. There's your one-hit kill.
Yep.
If they grab you with that, you're dead.
I'll be back.
No, yeah. I mean, it's less like this has kind of like an auto target for it. As soon as you hit the button, it sort of shifts. Like downward momentum stops, and you sort of shift into a different downward stab thing. Whereas in Dark Souls, you basically just hit the button and like you sort of move your sword beneath you
and fall. Yeah.
But I mean, that's a. I mean, I do that all the time in Dark Souls 1. And Demon Souls had it too.
I just think it feels better in this game.
Well, it feels like a more intentional mechanic in this. And I mean,
it almost feels like it's like not supposed to work in Dark Souls.
Well, it's also that Dark Souls doing it like that is almost 10 years old now.
Yeah.
So it's not like they haven't improved things, especially when you're talking about Team Ninja, which prefers to have a little more deliberation, or a little more of a deliberate thing on the abilities you have. Dead.
Hey, he had one pixel of health left. I'm like, I'll run in, quick slash, oh, nope. That's not happening. And here you can see I'm picking up my stuff from my grave there.
Yeah. And, in general, it's very similar to the first game. Like, the upgrade system seems pretty much the same. There's a lot more weapons to choose from. The enemies are way more dangerous. I mean, the first game was not a pushover. The first game was...
it was hard, difficult. Too. I mean, it was harder than Dark Souls, I felt like.
I think Nioh is harder than Dark Souls.
Do you think that how you select your weapon in this game is going to be in the final game, or do you think that was like a placeholder thing? Because you go into this room and they're just sitting there, and you kind of walk around and sample them before you pick your weapon. I
think that's going to be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't determine which weapon you're allowed to use. It just gives you each weapon gives you a minor stat bonus, and you start with a basic version of those two weapons.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason that would change.
I'll say this too: the upgrading in this is frequent.
Yes.
Because I didn't play it very long, and I was able to upgrade like my skill point. The skill trees in this are insane.
Yeah, it's very similar upgrade systems to the first game. The skills are different in places, and obviously there's more because the skills are a lot of the skills are weapon specific. So you are upgrading your ability to do things specifically with each type of sword or the axes or whatever you're using, and then you have a familiarity rating with it. So you level up your character's familiarity with the individual weapon type. So that's another. I mean, there are like 5 different upgrade systems happening at once at all times. And then you've got the key blast, and there's tons of stuff to keep track of.
I mean, it is a crazy deep game.
It is a Team Ninja game in that regard, very much so. It's just like, this is not something you're just going to dive into and play. And like that was part of my problem, is like I wasn't in the mindset, the frame of mind for a sit down and commit yourself kind of game.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I had time to play it, but I spent probably 2 hours with it before I just. Kind of lost interest. Like this is not going to be the game that gets me over the Souls.
No, well, I mean, this game is one of the least forgiving stamina bars in this subgenre. So.
I'll say this though about it: the enemies also operate on the same system, because I was fighting some enemies and they basically got staggered.
Yeah, they'll run out of
without me hitting them. Like they ran out of stamina, and I was able to go in and like finish them off. So at least they're playing on an even field, and they have to deal with kind of the same restraints.
At least the humans are.
I
don't know about the monsters.
That's a good point. Yeah, but at least like the rank and file enemies that you take on, they can run out of stamina too and then become worthless. So at least they balance those enemies a little bit. But yeah, this is only for the hardcore, strictly for the hardcore.
Yeah, if you need a game, if you like the Souls games and you're not afraid of the difficulty and you want a game that you can just play for like 3 months.
Yeah, pretty much.
Here you are.
I mean, these games are huge too, so it may actually be more than 3 months. Yeah, I felt hopeless playing the first one after a while. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm taking all this time to play this amount, and I know already how big it is, and it just became so disheartening that I just gave up ultimately.
Yeah, there's a demoralizing aspect to the first one that I eventually did stop. And like, You're right. I mean, I hit a point where I finally beat that boss, and I got to the safe, I got to the shrine, and okay, now I got to do it again with whatever the next thing they're gonna make me do is.
Yeah.
And the fact that this game is just like, if you get one dodge wrong,
you die.
You're dead.
You die.
You gotta do it.
You make one mistake, you're dead. Yeah. Even Dark Souls gives you like a couple shots before it kills you.
And you upgrade your health, or you'll get
like
there
I upgraded
eventually.
my armor before I even finished. Like after a couple hours, and I could see the difference like right away.
Yeah, but I just was a point where I'm like, I get it. It's a demo, but also it's a demo, and like if I'm gonna go through all this, I'm gonna do it in the final game where I get to keep my save. I don't know if this lets you transfer your save. Maybe it does.
They didn't say actually whether I don't think it will though, because I don't think this is the beginning of the game. Like, it would be weird for that cutscene to be the start of the game, but it is Team Ninja.
No,
so...
I thought that felt like the beginning.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems really
kind
weird.
Of media res.
There's like no setup or any relation to the prize. They don't introduce the character, like you.
Well, here's the thing.
You're just kind of standing in the background.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think if you are familiar with Japanese history, you already know who all those guys are. Like you're aware of what the situation is.
Oh, okay.
Like it'd be like we wouldn't feel the need to explain who Abraham Lincoln is in a Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, kind of limits its market maybe a little bit, but
yeah. I mean, I'm not here for the story. I'm here for the fighting.
Combat. Yeah,
here for the fire and the evil and the killing. But
yeah,
wow, I was not ready for I was not ready for how hard this was going to be.
I mean, Team Ninja, I think its engine also could probably use a little bit of a dust off.
I still feel like it's slippery. It feels a little slippery to me.
The fighting doesn't bother me. I just think the overall visual quality, their engine is starting to fall behind the big boys at this point.
I think it looks okay. I like all the weird effects on things and the particle effects around the monsters, and like there's a lot of detail if you can like get anything to stand still long enough to look at.
Right. Yeah.
Like the monsters are very well made, very well done. But,
the map, very much like Dark Souls, twisting paths that all can lead to the same place ultimately.
And then when you try to run away from someone, you're like, wait, I don't know where I'm going anymore. I'm dead.
You can't run away. They run after you.
They run all the way after you, yeah.
And they are just as fast as you. So once you engage, you're engaged. You can get away if you want to try to think about what you want to do and have them run after you while you hear their footprints in the satellite surround speakers. But as soon as you stop, they're right there, and you're going to have to fight them. So there's no reprieve in this game. It's really hard to sneak, too. The enemies seem to have really good hearing. It's just really hard. So if you're looking for a challenge, definitely follow this one on Sifted. They haven't put out a ton of media for it, but I have a feeling that bow is about to break, and we should be getting a lot more on this game in the coming days. Not a lot of people played this demo. You can just tell on YouTube like how many people had uploaded like gameplay of it, and there was like hardly none. But I do think it's still there. But if you're interested in playing it, you should literally like as soon as this show is over, go and download it, because they even say when you boot it up, this is available for a limited time, so play it while you can. So not much time left. This is a PS4 exclusive. Are you surprised that this continues to be PS4 exclusive?
I don't know. Like, I don't know why it would be, but
Team Ninja doesn't really have a history of making PS4 exclusives.
Not really.
It's more akin with Xbox, if anything.
The old one was, but,
right?
It's a very different company now.
Oh yeah,
Itagaki's long gone, and it's not really the same thing anymore. Although the pedigree clearly the company culture is similar, because you can sort of see the pedigree in these games compared to the old.
Well, it has samurai.
Ends. But also just sort of the incredibly long and difficult, Japanese like ninja samurai based gameplay. Like they have a tone
for sure. Yeah,
for sure.
They have their thing, and this is definitely their thing.
Yeah,
cranked up to like 12.
They got two things. They got this kind of thing, and they got Dead or Alive,
and they got boobs.
They got boobs.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't combined the two for this franchise for the sequel yet, although we haven't played the whole thing.
This is their historical game.
Right.
There were no boobs in history. we know this.
All right,
there were only flowing robes.
So there you go. That's Nioh 2. Again, it's a PS4 exclusive. I think it's weird, especially for something that's kind of niche, to not put it out on Xbox as well, but Xbox does so poorly in Japan that it might just
not be worth it.
I can also kind of understand if you're kind of making a game like this for your territory, then maybe it doesn't make as much sense. But in the West, it makes a lot of sense to put this out multi-platform. So there you go.
Probably on PC.
Yep. So there you go. That's Nioh 2, only coming to PS4. All All right, we're going to talk next about Ubisoft. We talked about Ubisoft last week, and we mentioned that it had delayed a ton of games from its roster, 3 games to be exact. And we talked about those for a while, and we were kind of confused. We knew that Breakpoint might have something to do with it, but then Ubisoft had a financial call this week, and it confirmed that, in fact, the response to Ghost Recon Breakpoint has caused Ubisoft to completely reevaluate everything. How it pitches games, how it bug tests games, which teams they're putting on games, how they're splitting up their teams to work on games, which, as you guys all know, is a big deal at Ubisoft. There really isn't a single development team that works on a game at Ubisoft, starts it, and finishes it without anyone else. It is kind of like an amoeba that morphs.
There's a core team for each game, but like each game is worked on by several hundred people across the globe. Basically, it's like art's over here and this is over here, and you've got kind of a brain trust team based somewhere that is sort of like, we are in charge of this game, but at no point is everyone who's working on the game all in the same room. Basically, it is assembly. That's why Ubisoft has all those satellite offices everywhere. Where like, maybe you're making Assassin's Creed Vikings or whatever, and you're based in Toronto, but the music's being recorded in Europe, and the sound mixing is being done in Shanghai, and it's a global thing every single time.
Yeah, especially whenever they hit like the last 18 months of development. That's when
you get 400 or 500 people on a single game across the planet.
That's when Team Ubisoft jumps on the project to finish it.
That's why the credits are like longer than the game.
Oh yeah, I mean their credits are like literally like 30 minutes for each Ubisoft game. That's pretty much how it works. So Breakpoint comes out. It is a pretty massive disappointment. I think its Metacritic is sitting at below a 6 right now. Mm-hmm. There aren't many Ubisoft games from the last 15 years that have scored that low. I mean, I struggle to think of more than like 3.
No.
Some of the Far Cry spin-offs.
Maybe like, I don't know, a couple of Rabid games or something. Like it's not common.
Their games that score that low are typically their casual
or like Just Dance stuff
or kids stuff. It's not their big quote unquote AAA big budget games that are made for adults. But that's what happened with Breakpoint, and for good reason. Breakpoint is broken in a lot of ways.
Broke Point.
They
couldn't have named it better, really.
They really couldn't, because it
literally was their breaking point.
It wrote the lower third. Yeah. It was just like, I could sit here and try to be clever, but it would not be as good as what is most obvious.
And I'm a little stunned at how few updates there have been for this game.
Yeah,
like one major patch. Like
that's it.
It's like you got to bake this thing, guys.
Well, I think that maybe speaks to the fact that they are going to change how they do QA.
Yeah.
That'll probably be, I think, the biggest change, because you can't really switch courses and say, oh, we used to pull in everybody from Ubisoft to finish off our big games, but we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go back to the old way where we just have one team that's dedicated to a game, and they work on that game until it's finished, and then it ships, and then they start working on the sequel. Like,
I'm just interested, like how, like what the nitty gritty of like what they're talking about here is, because like I don't feel like anything in Breakpoint is flawed conceptually. I think the problem is they didn't finish it.
Well,
the problem is like they've got, you can see the little seeds of like the survival stuff and like all the things they were pushing in that trailer that I thought was bullshit and you thought was indicative of a complete change in direction. Like if any of that stuff had been real, it would have been a complete change of direction. But like you can see the vestigial limbs of it in the game, in the final game, but they just never did anything. They never grew in anything, and it just feels like the problem doesn't seem to be like, they're talking about changing how they pitch the game and like the problem isn't the pitch for this game. The problem is like what you made isn't what was pitched, I think.
Yeah, or in my opinion, what was marketed. Ubisoft did comment on.
I wonder how separate marketing is from development. That marketing was told this is what the fact sheet on the game is, and they made a thing, and it just didn't match up with what ended up getting finished.
Things may be different now, but back when, I guess it was probably Assassin's Creed 3. We had a big meeting with Ubisoft because they wanted to start charging us to run its trailers.
I remember that, yeah.
Because their trailers were doing like 5 or 6 million views on game trailers, and they were salty over it. And they literally like pitched to us like, hey, would you be interested in paying for our trailers and then getting to run them first? And I was like, how about we just stick to the whole thing where you give it to us first exclusively. It does 10 million views in 3 days, and then you give it to everybody else. And they're like, okay. Like, it's like,
nice try.
Don't mess up something that's working for both sides right now. But anyway, the reason I'm talking about that is because I realized that day that marketing at Ubisoft, or at least it was a part of development. Because we were supposed to meet with PR and the developers who were supposed to talk to us about their whole plan for Assassin's Creed 3, because we were supposed to come up with this elaborate plan to promote the game where we would do like 5 weeks of features on the game and then run some of that stuff on the TV show with Jeff. And so we came in to pitch like our ideas to knock down the exclusive for it. And that just flowed out of that conversation organically, where they're like, yeah, you guys need to start paying us for this stuff. And two, the fact that their marketing team was just a part of the development team. Like, they were there with the developers. I don't know if that's changed over time, but back then there was definitely synergy going on. I would venture to guess that has changed, because with Breakpoint, what the marketing team did is not what the game ended up becoming. And you can't blame that on the developers. You can't just like change your game's focus like overnight and shift gears. That's not how it works. So to me, it appeared like the marketing team was trying to find an angle. And this goes to what Ubisoft said about this. And what it said was, we can't keep making the same game with a different coat of paint. That was what Eve said during the call. And so their concern is people are getting to the point where, oh, it's a Ubisoft game, which means I'm going to be doing the same crap that I'm always doing in Ubisoft games. And he didn't seem to attribute the poor performance of Breakpoint to the quality of the game or the polish of the game. He seemed to think that we've been shoveling the same concepts and the same ideas out there so long that people are getting tired of them. Basically, loot-based shooters. And I think you could argue that releasing something like this so close to the Division 2, if you truly want the Division 2 to be this living, breathing platform, that was a huge mistake.
And not that long after Wildlands,
right.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean, they made this in 2 years.
Right. So I wouldn't say they sent him out to die, but they certainly capped the potential of 2 other games to release this game.
It definitely felt like they were, it felt like this was just like, we have to put something out in Q4.
Right.
Like, no Assassin's Creed this year, so we have to put something out.
Yep.
And this is what it was. And it really, I believe this thing was not ready to be released until March.
Probably.
Which is, isn't that when
Which makes sense.
Wildlands came out? It
Yeah.
came out in March. Like,
Yeah.
This feels like an end of fiscal quarter game.
And if you look at how polished it was, that lines up.
Yeah.
Because you could see that the problems that it has
Yeah.
could have been fixed
Like
in
6 more months.
Yep,
in
it
the
would have
oven.
been gravy.
And then you've got Watch Dogs Legion,
Yep.
which apparently wasn't going to be ready until taking that same slot that normally. It feels like everything got moved up a quarter.
Yep.
And after this, they were like, you know what? Let's just push everything back where it should be.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, good for all those games that are going to improve because of it. But it's like, I know that that's just sort of how corporate business works, but it's like weird that you have to have this happen to you publicly and financially to recognize that this was a bad idea.
Well, I think both the irony and the problem with Watch Dogs Legion was that, one, Watch Dogs actually does have new concepts. It's not going to be this same old game. So that's the irony, is that Watch Dogs actually is different. It is kind of breaking out of that Ubisoft template.
Which is, I think, why it's taking so long. In part, I mean, it's Watch Dogs Legion has definitely taken longer post Watch Dogs 2 than the average Ubisoft sequel should take.
Yeah.
They can pump these things out real fast.
Yep.
And it's not even the same team that did 2, so you'd think they'd be like, okay, get this thing out in 2 years, hell or high water, here we go. But they've been working on it for like what? When did Watch Dogs 2 come out? Like 2016?
Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean, so we're going to be in 4 years. 4 years is a long time for a Ubisoft sequel.
It is.
I mean, even Assassin's Creed Assassin's Creed Origins was only 3 years after Syndicate.
Yeah. But they pushed this back. So it's ironic because this actually is something different, but it's good that, because there are these new concepts, they're like, we can't have what happened with Breakpoint happen with this game.
Right.
It's too big.
Because the other possibility there is you put this thing out before it's ready, And then the conclusion of Ubisoft is that, like, oh, well, new stuff doesn't sell, so we should just do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
So, I think they do have a slate of things that are breaking their own mold. Like with this, Beyond Good and Evil 2 looks like it's just out in
completely
crazy town.
Out in outer space, yeah. Although I will say this: so Gods and Monsters, which is Ubisoft's
the Zelda-ish,
Zelda-ish clone. Which
there
you're seeing
is.
right now. It was delayed drastically. It was supposed to come out early next year, and they delayed it to...
that was like January 26th or something. Yeah,
and they delayed it to we don't have a date. And I think this is being built by the Assassin's Creed Odyssey team, by the way. That's the team that's the core team on this before everyone else jumps in to finish it. I think what happened was this was just basically Assassin's Creed reskinned.
Yeah.
And I think that...
because you can see it.
You can see it. And I think what they're saying is, okay, this is what we need to get away from.
Yeah, this has to be something else.
It has to be different. And I think that game now probably is like a Gen 9 game. That's my guess. And I think they're probably going to do a pretty big rework. I don't think they're going to ditch it because the response to it was like amazing.
Was too good, but I bet you're going to see instead because if you look at this, you can almost see that it's a reskinned Grease.
Yep.
And like
with a different art style.
I feel like if you go back to the drawing board a little bit here and you add dungeons, puzzles, and like you make it like you really lean in hard on the Zelda thing, as opposed to just sort of like doing a mod
of Assassin's Creed
Odyssey.
So I have a feeling this will be the biggest casualty.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see this till 2021.
I have a feeling this might be the next game that we're talking about. Like, is it ever coming out?
Maybe.
Like, we've kind of moved. Like, Beyond Good and Evil is that now. Eventually that's going to come out, and I think this still won't have come out, and we'll be like, what's going on? So is this smart, what Ubisoft is doing?
I mean, it would have been smarter to not be in this position.
Well, let's tackle that from two perspectives.
Like,
let's tackle it from Ubisoft's financial perspective, and then from the perspective of the player.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's smart from both perspectives because you're going to get better, theoretically, you're going to get better game in the hands of the player. And you can only ride that sort of wave they were on so long before it crashes.
Yeah.
And I think as bad as Breakpoint's performance was, I don't think you're seeing the absolute worst case scenario that could have resulted.
Yeah.
So it's better financially that they recognize this now as opposed to like 3 more games like
when
that
it's too late. Yeah.
And then like you're already in like crazy in the red. And I mean, yeah, you're going to have to absorb a pretty rough Q1 next year.
They have a rough year this year.
Yeah, but like Q1, I don't think they have a major release.
No.
Because they have to move Watch Dogs out.
No, they're making all their money on like Rainbow Six Siege right now.
But you basically just have to bite that bullet and eat the loss and say, in your financial reports in March, you just assure the shareholders that like
this next 12 months,
it's a course correction, but we got new systems coming out. The revenue for this fall is going to be crazy. Maybe they get Beyond Good and Evil 2 out. They're definitely getting a Assassin's Creed out in time for a new system launch, and that's always done well for them.
Yep.
Hopefully it'll be better than Unity. I mean, not better in terms of
because it will be that team's turn.
Yeah, because I actually like Unity once they fixed it. Like Unity's actually a pretty good game, but like when it launched, it was just completely broken.
It was worse than Breakpoint.
Yeah, it was the break point of Assassin's Creed.
It was, yeah.
And it really was because like,
and now we're seeing the break point of.
This is like more company-wide, similar response to the response they had to Unity for the Assassin's Creed franchise. The Assassin's Creed franchise after that was like, all right, we're going to finish the Victorian London one we're doing, but then we got to come up with something else.
Yep.
And they did, and it worked, and it's great. Like so, this has been circling the wagons and kind of calling for all hands on deck and like we got to rethink how we do this has actually been a positive thing for pretty much everyone concerned the last time Ubisoft did this. So
true. Yep.
I'm hoping that this results in something good for everybody.
Yep, but I guess really the end result is none of us are going to be playing a great Ubisoft game for a really long time.
No, Ubi is pretty much off the board for at least 6 months.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, it is one of the big boys. It makes some of the best games in the industry.
But on the flip side, it ain't like we don't have other things to do in
true.
Q1.
There will be plenty to take up our time. That's absolutely
it's all right. Johnny Silverhand is coming.
All right, let's move along. We're going to talk next about we're going to talk a little inside baseball here. Mm-hmm. We try not to talk too much about like games media and games journalism on GameFace because I feel like it's one of those things that we care about a lot more than the audience cares about. Mm-hmm. But then, like every once in a while, I get messages that are like, "Are you going to talk about this?" So some people do care, but we're going to keep it quick and light. Just so you guys know what happened. Maybe you guys don't even know what happened because, like, here's the thing. Nobody published stories about this. Like, if you wanted to find a story about this, because the day after it happened, and it was the biggest story pretty much that day, I went to Sifted, and I think we were, like, recording. I was doing something I didn't have a chance to curate. So I was looking for the story about it on Sifted, and there wasn't one. And I was like, what the heck? Like, we didn't curate this. So I emailed Vincent, and I was like, hey, how did we miss, like, this story? And he's like, because no one reported on it. So I started, like, digging around, and sure enough, he was right. Like, there was not a single major publication that reported on this.
It was purely, like, people on Twitter.
Yeah, it was Twitter and, like, fan sites. And so I started we tried to find one. We did find, finally, a story from one of the sites we normally curate from that just kind of wrapped up what had happened, but didn't tackle it right when it happened. So anyway, if you guys don't know what happened, and it's not surprising because it wasn't really that reported, Kotaku last week went on Twitter and basically said that they were given a mandate by their parent company to only discuss games, and that had happened at Deadspin like a couple days before. And Deadspin is also under the same umbrella as Kotaku.
The previous Gawker.
Yeah, because basically what happened was Gawker was owned by Univision, which is like a Spanish-speaking TV network, and the biggest in the world. It's a big company. But I've
done some stuff for them.
Yeah, but they decided that they didn't want to have that type of content because it wasn't in their wheelhouse. They're like, these companies are doing okay, but we don't really get that business. So
also the Hulk Hogan lawsuit didn't help.
Didn't help either. So yeah, he ended up getting what, $80 million or something.
Like that. I mean, it was the end of Gawker itself.
Pretty much.
But the satellite outlets that were under Gawker Media got sold off.
Yep. And so a private equity company basically buys Gawker out of bankruptcy is what it comes down to.
So you had Kotaku and Deadspin and Jalopnik and Jezebel and The Root and all that stuff.
Which is all under that same umbrella. And they were snatched up by a private equity firm called like G/O Media or something like that. And it appears that either GO Media is run by conservatives, or they just really believe that each site, publication, whatever, should just stick to whatever is in their masthead. And
which is not how those have ever been run.
There's
always been tons of crossover between those
first
sites.
of all, as a sports person, someone who loves sports, and who knows Deadspin very well, if Deadspin had just stuck to sports, they wouldn't have a brand to buy.
No.
The reason Deadspin blew up was because it didn't just stick to sports, and it wasn't afraid to call things the way they were. And they do talk about some cultural stuff, and if you follow like Deadspin's Twitter, yeah. Like if you're a big fan of Trump, you're probably not going to be happy if you follow Deadspin's Twitter. That's fair. I mean, they do stray outside of sports. But when they do cover sports, at least when they launched, they did it unlike anybody else. They brought culture and the people of sports into their coverage. And it was great. People loved it. It exploded. It became huge. And they got the new management. The new management was not happy with what was happening on their Twitter feed, what was happening in some of their articles, because they were mentioning cultural stuff like they always had. You should know that before you buy it, you think, if you're that private equity company. Why are you buying it if you don't like that? They didn't change when you bought them. They were doing this same thing. That's how they built their business doing this. So, long story short, actually it's still a long story long, everybody left Deadspin. So first the editor-in-chief stepped down and was like, no, you're telling me how to run my editorial, I'm not going to do that. And he resigned or was fired or whatever, and then the whole staff quit. I'm not exaggerating. It wasn't like the whole staff. Deadspin has no editors. In fact, you had an anecdote when you came in. They brought some
the
scab
next day
in.
They brought in a freelancer to do stuff, and halfway through the day, he was blown up on Twitter, and they're like, "You're a scab," and he didn't really know the situation.
Yeah.
So he's like, and so he quit that
because
it
wasn't reported on.
Yeah, so he's like, "Sorry, I didn't know. Thanks for letting me know. I don't want to be part of this anymore." And he just he bailed.
Yep. So they
had no one.
Yeah,
they were
and
gone.
they still don't. That's Deadspin. Deadspin is dead right now. There's nobody working there. They aren't publishing. Like they're dead. And
they've tweaked the algorithm to just sort of like offer up like old stories that are as innocuous as possible. It's very fun. It's actually pretty fun.
And so Yeah, and so then today, the head of editorial there, the guy
who demanded sports only,
resigned.
Because of course he did.
So you have this guy, and maybe he was just taking his orders from, and this is the way corporate America works. Like, the messenger gets killed. It's not the person who actually made the decision. It's the guy who had to tell the people this is the decision.
You can totally imagine a higher up guy. It's like, well, you just didn't deliver the message correctly.
Right.
And it's like, how else do you deliver that message?
Yeah, the way you phrased it is the problem.
Right.
It's not our edict that caused the problem. So he steps down today. So he does this thing that causes the whole content team to quit, and then he quits. Mm-hmm. So Deadspin is dead. Kotaku, dealing with the same parent company, has a different problem. They did get the mandate that says stick to video games, don't talk about politics or culture, like just talk about games, and they bristled at that. But the big problem for Kotaku is that the private...
like, how do you Schreier do his reporting without talking about... I mean, unionization comes up every single time he does one of those investigative things. Like, that's the whole point.
Right. That wasn't the biggest problem for Kotaku, though.
Right. This is the ad thing.
They didn't bristle as much about the stick to whatever you're covering thing.
They don't stray from games much on Kotaku, except when Brian Ashcraft is talking about some weird anime porn thing periodically.
Yeah. But they're not crazy political like Deadspin was or anything like that. The problem with Kotaku was...
And Deadspin really, that became a thing when Kaepernick became a thing. Like, that was where they really started getting into it, and they got views. Like people read it. Like it was a good angle.
It was a good angle, absolutely.
It was like the anti-Barstool.
Yep, that's a good way to put it.
Which actually, I've always felt Barstool also approached it similarly in the sense that, like,
the other
Barstool's more about who's telling you the news rather than what the news is.
Yeah.
It's about who you're getting your sports from.
Yep. And I would say that Barstool represents sort of the other side of the spectrum as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But Kotaku's problem...
I learned things reading Deadspin. I didn't learn much reading Barstool.
No, they're just a bunch of meatheads. Yeah. They are the stereotypical jock
But
culture.
I would argue that it is the same format idea.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But Kotaku's problem wasn't really with that stuff, although I'm sure that, if you talk to them privately, they'd probably say what's going on at Deadspin is crap.
No writer likes to be told what to write.
No, ever. Kotaku's problem was his private equity firm had started running obnoxious ads. Yeah. And so they first started running like autoplay ads, which everybody on the internet hates. Yeah. But to be honest with you, they're everywhere now. So... they don't bother me so much. Again, I also work in journalism, so I'm...
Well, no, I use an ad blocker most of the time, and sometimes, like, say, oh, please whitelist our site, because I'm like, all right, fine, I like your style, whitelist. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, no, I'm putting
you can look on your ad blocker, though. Like ESPN.com or IGN.com, if you use an ad blocker on their homepage, it will block like 40 ads.
Yep.
That's not an exaggeration.
Oh, no, you see a little counter go up.
It counts it.
Like,
40 ads! It's insane. So that's going the other direction. And the reason we're talking about this is because what's happening at Kotaku is what happened to game trailers. So the parent company starts running these obnoxious autoplay ads. That's bad enough. Kotaku pushes back against it. Says, no, our users are going to hate this. Yeah. We hate it.
And ran like a mocking story about it.
Yeah, they ran a story about it saying this isn't on us or this isn't our decision to do this.
Which was then deleted without their... knowledge.
Well, then what happened was the autoplay ads started having audio. They weren't just playing video. The audio was on when they would start playing, and that is when Kotaku rebelled. That's when Kotaku wrote like the scathing, like this isn't us, like this is a terrible idea. This is coming from this equity company, these new owners, and then they were smacked down by the equity company. Basically, for a day, people wondered if Kotaku was going under. They wondered if Schreier was working there anymore. They wondered if Stephen Totilo was working there anymore. And
Tim Rogers.
I mean, the whole staff. They were all, and I love that they all stood up for each other. That they all rallied together, and they were like, you know what, we're gonna figure out what our messaging is, and we're gonna present a united front on this because you have to. If you're splintered as the staff, they'll start picking you off. Yeah. They'd be like, "Oh, you're the guy who doesn't like it," but here's because
you got to remember, like, as much as I definitely saw when the autoplay ads started, like people were on Twitter like blaming Kotaku, like they were blaming
because people don't
Schreier
understand how it works
and shit like that.
I don't blame people for that because you can't expect them to understand how the business works if they don't work in it. Like all they care about is getting what they want, getting the content that they want, listening to the podcast that they like, reading the review from the editor that they respect. They don't care. And this is why we don't talk about it a lot on GameFace, because most people just don't really care. They're like, why is Shane talking about like some other outlet? I just want to know what he thinks about game X, Y, or Z. And I get some of that. But I think there is a part of our audience that does kind of care about this. And there's a part of our audience that kind of wants to do this as well. And I think this is educational for them. But basically, Kotaku is running into the same problem that game trailers ran into. You're not generating enough revenue in other ways. You don't have enough other revenue streams to bring in enough money to offset the loss of ad revenue. So when you start losing the ad revenue, the mothership starts saying, oh, no. We're not going to make less money this quarter. We're going to figure out a way that we can make that same amount of money, and we're going to make the user experience worse. And that is exactly what happened at game trailers. And we didn't have like invasive pop-up autoplay ads, but how it affected us was our ad frequency. We went from, during the glory days of game trailers, the ad frequency was 1 to 3 or 4, meaning you could watch 3 or 4 videos before you'd have to watch a pre-roll ad. Once the mothership started taking over and SVP started meddling with game trailers who had no idea what game trailers was, they were like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you taking care of the user? Oh, we're going 1-to-1 ads. And that's what they did. Every video you watched on game trailers, you watched an ad. And that's when we started to see our traffic fade. And then people were like, oh, well, you know what? I'm just going to start using ad blocker. And then we lost everything. We lost all the money that we were making off of people who were okay watching ads, because even those people now were like, well, screw that. Like, I have to watch one. Who wants to watch a 30... And this is going on at IGN right now, by the way. Who wants to watch a 30-second pre-roll to watch a 30-second trailer? And my guess is IGN's in the same space that GT was 7-8 years ago, where they're like, we have to. Like, if we want to stay alive, we have to run ads before every single video. And even back then, there was a line that people didn't cross, which was embeds. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason, running ads on embeds was like a no-no. Like, if somebody embedded your video and they watched it on some other page and an ad would run, like, they would come all the way to us and be like, you're running ads in your embedded videos. It's like, yeah, that's still our video, bro. Like, we still need to generate revenue off of our work. And it took a while before people got over that. Like, now, nobody cares if people run ads in embedded videos. Back then, it was a huge thing. So you're forced to kind of, it's tough because you have to dance in between your users and the people who are signing your checks every month. And that's not a position a journalist should ever have to be in. So as someone who's been in the situation that Kotaku's in right now, like, there's no easy answer to it, because I can tell them, at least based on my experience, the mothership is not going to stop shoving those ads at you. Like, until you can come up with a way to generate revenue to offset that. So if you come up with an idea and you're like, hey, I have an idea that's going to generate X amount of dollars every quarter that can offset the ad revenue you're going to lose if you only run an ad 1 out of every 3 videos or whatever, or you only maybe run one of those pop-up ads when somebody comes to the site the first time in the day and not every time they come back. Like, until you can find an offset for that, they're never going to relent. So that would be my suggestion to Kotaku, the content team, is you guys need to come up with a way to generate revenue to offset the revenue that they're going to lose with the ads if they stop running them as frequently as they do. But otherwise, it's a lose-lose. There's no way out of it. You have to find a way to replace that money, or they're never going to relent, and they're never going to change their minds. So what was your take on this whole thing? Do you have one?
Not really. I mean, I think the Deadspin guys probably did the right thing, which is nice to be able to do if you have the luxury of not starving to death,
right,
by having to quit.
It's easy to do if you're a management and you make a big salary and you socked away.
A lot of those guys are probably younger and don't have quite as many mortgages and children and everything. But yeah, I mean, I don't see the solution, especially from the Kotaku side of things. Like how do you make more revenue? I don't know. You start a Patreon. Who's gonna join a Patreon?
I'll be honest with you. I have like 20 ideas of how Kotaku could make more money. I'm not gonna share them, but I have like 20 ideas for them to make more money. They can do it very easily, actually.
And I mean, I also just don't think there's any any solution will placate the people that own them now, because they're, I mean, I do believe that they are trying to silence the political talk because the people that write for them do not agree with the people who own them now in terms of political spectrum. And they're saying it's because they want to adjust and solidify the format, but really they want to stop, left-wing speech.
Pretty much.
And because Deadspin was pretty open about their political views on that.
For sure.
Which, again, one of the reasons I like them.
But here's the other thing about doing
Kotaku,
that, though.
I don't know. Kotaku is interesting because, like, Kotaku's writers, I feel, would have the easiest time finding somewhere to land.
Oh, yeah.
Because Schreier's huge reputation.
Schreier would be hired before he walked out the door.
Yeah, Totillo, huge reputation. Tim Rogers, one of the best video guys on games right now. I mean, and I didn't even like his text writing back in the day, but the man, he has come into himself brilliantly. Like, every one of his long form crazy 40-minute reviews is entertaining from start to finish.
Yeah.
Any outlet would be lucky to have him. So those guys, I think, have leverage in the sense, not that the executives would recognize their talent in that regard, but they have leverage in the sense that they know they would land on their feet if they had to walk away.
Yeah. Although that's not easy anymore, man. That's not a given. There aren't any jobs in our industry.
No, but I think people would make room for them. At least those three guys.
I don't know.
I think they would.
Schreier
for sure.
He would have a job before his foot stepped outside of Gawker's
Totillo
doors.
could do anything. He wouldn't even need to stay in journalism.
Sure.
If he didn't want to, really. And Rogers could start his own YouTube channel if he wanted, but I don't think he's interested in that kind of thing. But if you ran like a video channel, I mean, Polygon should pick him up and team him up with Brian David Gilbert.
That might work. I mean, most of the sites now are really just concerned about how many followers you have. I mean, that's what they're hiring. They're looking at your social media, and they're like, how many followers do you have? And that, I believe, has become like one of the most important requirements to hire people in 2019. Mm-hmm. How much, when you retweet something, how many people are going to see it?
Yep. Like, the follower count is probably more important than the CV at this point.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's cheaper because you can hire these people. They're 19, 20 years old. You can hire them for 40, 50 grand. They don't have a big resume where they're going to demand a decent salary. It's just kind of the way things are going. So it's no given that if you leave an outlet in 2019, a traditional like journalism-based outlet versus like an influencer type thing, there's no guarantee you're going to get another job in the industry. There's really not. You better hope you've really buddied up with somebody else at another publication. Like literally like your best friend is at another publication. Because otherwise, good luck. So yeah, the answer is Kotaku, and I get why they rebelled and they bristled and they pushed back on it. I would have done the same exact thing, but we
have done the same thing.
We have done the same thing, but in
less desperate times.
Yeah. The answer is finding a solution, and the solution is finding a way to generate more money. It's not a traffic problem. Look, if you cannot stay alive monetizing Kotaku's traffic, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, something majorly wrong. If you're getting that many eyeballs to your webpage every day, there's no reason that your parent company should be in a position where it feels like it has to run god-awful ads to stay afloat. So I would just say, brainstorm and start thinking of ways.
I mean, how likely do you think it is that they were actually fine revenue-wise, but the new owners looked at this traffic and were like, oh, if we throw this obnoxious shit on here, we can make even more?
The problem is that, so at GT, and I guess I probably should be sharing this, but I'm going to anyway. Our profit margin was 30%. So the budget that was given to us to run game trailers for the year, ultimately when it was all said and done, we generated an extra 30% of our budget as profit. That was a joke to Viacom. Like, literally, like, pocket lint. And so they looked at it like, you're making a profit, which most of our competitors weren't at that time even close to making a profit. Most of them were losing money hand over fist.
We sure weren't.
Yeah, everybody was, though. I mean, the fact that we were a video game publication with a 30% profit margin, completely unheard of. They didn't care, though. Because we were game trailers at Viacom. They own, like, 10 TV networks, Paramount Pictures, like it's a joke to them for a company like us to make $4 or $5 million in profit in a year. They're just like, that doesn't, like, why do you guys have a whole floor of a building? Why do you have like all these crazy edit suites where the edit suites where we actually cut MTV shows are a dump and they're down in the basement of your building. Like, they just started looking at it and they're like, this is too much hassle for what we're getting out of it. And so in that, we were in a kind of a unique position there, being owned by this big media conglomerate. Whereas maybe Kotaku's kind of in the same boat because they're owned by an equity company that has its hands in a lot of different pies. Like, I don't know. But the similarities are you get to a point financially where the people who are writing your checks think you're no longer viable. And they start forcing things on you to either get you to where you are viable in their eyes or to just shut it down. I mean, that's really what it comes to. And I have a feeling that private equity company, at the end of the day, may be like, we lost Deadspin. Nah. When you're dealing with that kind of money, like billions of dollars versus like $2 million, $3 million or whatever, things become expendable very quickly. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to game trailers. And I hope to God the same thing doesn't happen at Kotaku. We tried everything we could to stop it, but the advent of ad blocker at the same time it was happening just crushed us. And that was that. So I hope Kotaku can maintain, because we need them. Like, this industry needs them. If Kotaku isn't writing that stuff, who's going to write it? Yep. Who's going to investigate this stuff? Who's going to talk to the workers who are being mistreated? Like, there are other outlets that could pick it up, and sure, maybe somebody hires Jason Schreier if it comes to that, but we need an outlet like Kotaku doing this. And I just hope that it can find a way to stay in business and survive. So we'll see. Best of luck to Steven and Jason. Love all those guys over there. They do amazing work. But they're smart, and I know that there are things that they can do to turn this around, and I hope that they figure it out. But
maybe not Tim Rogers, because he was born stupid.
He definitely was not born stupid.
But he will not die hungry.
All right, let's move on. We're done with Inside Baseball. Hopefully you guys didn't find that too annoying. We do tend to talk about the industry maybe a little bit too much on GameFace. But we've been in it for so long, it's like, if we didn't do it, I don't think we'd be being ourselves. So we're going to do it, here and there anyway.
Can't say it wasn't informative.
That's true. Yep. And you'll learn a lot about...
tagline.
Yeah. That's exactly. The most informative gaming podcast in the world. So PlayStation Vue shut down this week. It's actually not shut down yet. It is shutting down. And to me, it's sad.
Did anyone notice?
I noticed, because I have been eyeing PlayStation Vue since it launched, because I've done a lot of research on cutting the cord, and to be perfectly honest with you, if you enjoy sports even a little bit and you're planning on cutting the cord, PlayStation Vue was the choice. Mm-hmm. Not only did it give you stuff like the NFL Red Zone channel, which is really hard to get unless you have cable, but it also gave you the option for local sports, and that may have changed. Maybe YouTube TV's doing this now too.
But the Matthews are really into paneling.
Yeah. But when PlayStation Vue launched, it was the only cut-the-cord service that also gave you your local sports and news channels. Mm-hmm. And so it was a big deal. And I'm guessing now probably all of them do it. But when Vue did it, it was a big deal. But to me, the break point for Vue was that it had NFL Red Zone channel, and no other service had it. And after, 2 years now? It's closing.
I think it's even longer than that.
Has it been 2 years for Vue? More than 2 years for Vue?
I think it was. I mean, I have not paid tremendous amounts of attention, but I knew there was a Red Zone option through PlayStation for several years.
Oh, no, they had Sunday Ticket on PSN.
Oh, that's separate?
Yeah, that was a big deal, because before that, you could only get Sunday Ticket on DirecTV.
And it's entirely possible I didn't even realize the Vue transition even happened.
Yeah. Well, Vue didn't have Sunday Ticket. So Sunday Ticket and Red Zone are different. Sunday Ticket is where you can watch any game from beginning to end. You get every NFL game, and you can watch the whole thing. And you get this other channel where there's like 8 windows, and you can like move the cursor around, and it changes the audio to whatever game. That's Sunday Ticket. Red Zone is just a channel that just goes basically for 7 hours straight. You never see a commercial, and it just cuts between all the games. So they have a director there, a producer there. It's like, oh, they're getting ready to score in the Steelers game. And they'll
March 2015.
2015. So it's been 4 plus years. That's way longer than I thought. So anyway, Vue was what I was going to choose, and now it is shuttering. 1, why do you think that is? And 2, do you think it was the right move by PlayStation to lose that business?
Well, I assume it's because no one's using it. It seems kind of like the PlayStation home of the PS4. And honestly, with all the new streaming stuff coming out, I mean, all these new services, I don't see how they can possibly compete. Like it's such a third stringer in that kind of like streaming cut the cord situation. Like I don't know why you'd even they'd even bother.
Okay, what two services do you think were better than View?
I'm not saying they're better. I'm just saying they have more traction. Like it doesn't, better doesn't mean more popular.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware.
But people are going to look at this and be like, I'm just going to keep Hulu and get Disney Plus and call it a day. Also, like you're hitting a point where people are, you're subscribed to so many different streaming services that you're paying more than you were for cable.
No, I get that. And so View was like, if you got a decent package, it was $60 a month. That same package for me on DirecTV would cost about $120 a month. So it's still half priced. You would lose a couple channels, but they're honestly like the channels that nobody watches.
Yeah. Well, and also like I think the ability to watch live television is no one cares unless you're a sports fan.
Yeah.
And
no, you're right. That's all that matters anymore.
Like I don't know what sports fans do other than this. I assume there are other options, or they just get DirecTV or whatever.
Yeah. Most hardcore sports fans have not cut the cord.
I haven't cut the cord. I'm not a sports fan.
And you're not even like a big sports guy.
I just don't. I like having live television on call. I watch like some deep cut expanded cable because that is where I worked for a long time, and I like that. Like that stuff. I used to watch the History Channel a lot before it became the Alien Channel.
Yeah, that's all I watch, like Discovery, History, and that's pretty much it.
I mean, I watch news
and sports,
and
HBO
stuff like that. Yeah, but like. I generally don't even watch TV series until they hit some streaming service.
And most people are that way.
Them, and that's like I have Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus starting next week. Mandalorian, let's go.
Yeah.
And then do I have anything else? I don't have View. I think that's it.
You don't have YouTube TV or Hulu or
no.
Yeah.
I almost subscribed to YouTube TV to watch Mindfield. But then the guy who makes Mindfield made it free to everyone like a month ago. So I'm like, I don't need to do that. The YouTube Red thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was. I think that was a bomb and a half. Like no one's paying to watch YouTube content.
The crazy part to me is that this was no small undertaking by PlayStation.
No,
this is a huge undertaking with a lot of R&D, a lot of investment before the thing even launches, and then it does, and it just seemed. They bailed way too early on this.
I think you also run into a problem. I run into a problem of like I know the PlayStation brand is very strong in the sense that like it's the game console, it's defined game consoles that aren't Nintendo for 20 years now or whatever. But you can't call everything PlayStation something. Like it's too many.
You don't think that helps?
I don't think it does at all. I think because you got PlayStation Now, PlayStation View, and PlayStation Vita. And it's like, what is all these things that just like with a random short word after PlayStation? It doesn't describe anything.
I think what they're doing.
I think there were a lot of people that are confused about what the difference between PlayStation Now and PlayStation View were.
For sure. I think what they're trying to do though is they're trying to let you know that once you buy that PlayStation, all of this stuff becomes available.
For sure. But I think you would have a better chance with it if you just called it something. Even if you just called it View. Like, it doesn't have to be branded PlayStation. Because the other problem with the PlayStation brand is, like, when they announced this, like, one of my friends who's sort of a tech business guy but doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to games was like, what's this View thing that's shutting down? I'm like, it's the TV thing that I don't really use. He thought it was a game service because it said PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like, he had no idea it was TV-related because it said PlayStation on it.
Yeah. I had friends who were cutting the cord before this NFL season from back in Philadelphia, and they were like, okay, if I cut the cord, what service can I get where I can watch football? And it was View. Mm-hmm. And now
that was definitely when we used to have like football Sundays at my friend's house, and then he had to move out of the house we did that in, and his new place was too small for it. And I was thinking about taking that over, and I didn't in the end. But PlayStation View, I wasn't going to subscribe to I couldn't get Red Zone because I didn't have DirecTV.
You mean Sunday Ticket?
Sunday Ticket. I couldn't get direct. So I was going to do it through PlayStation.
Yep.
Because I'm like, okay, that's the solution.
It's your only option. Yeah.
But then I didn't.
Sunday Ticket will probably still stay on PlayStation because that's a completely separate app unrelated to them.
I mean, that would be the only use I would have for something like a live television on PlayStation would be that. PlayStation View is not of interest to me.
So you're of the mind that them having PlayStation View was not a help at all to the overall PlayStation brand?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I don't think they lose anything by getting rid of this. Do
you think they gained anything by having it?
No.
Well, they obviously probably lost a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, they gained some negative. I don't know.
So you think they were smart to ditch it? Or do you think it was short-sighted?
No, I think it's smart to. After 4 years, it's either done it or it isn't going to do it. Like it's like I don't think they were dumb to launch it because that was like sort of where the industry was at the time. I mean, it certainly wasn't any weirder than like trying to integrate ESPN to the Xbox One. When was the last time you heard about that?
Yeah.
But like.
That's true.
Yeah, it was like, that was the time everyone was cutting the cable and everyone would be the one, if you could be the one that everybody migrated to, that would be a big boon, and PlayStation Vue wasn't it, and it's not going to be it, so, time to cut bait.
I think part of the problem is that the audience is spread too thin.
Yeah.
Because with satellite, you have like two choices in the entire like United States. You have Dish Network and you have DirecTV. Mm-hmm. And one will choose one, some will choose the other, but no matter what, because there's only two, there's enough for each company that they can stay in business. With streaming, though, you have Roku, you have Hulu, you have all these companies.
Apple TV,
a lot of them demand a different device or dongle that you have to use
Google
with
TV,
them.
yeah.
At least with PlayStation, you knew that you had to have a PlayStation.
Yeah, well, I think that's also maybe part of its problem is like, if Apple TV makes
you
it
can
really
buy a $20 dongle.
but you can also watch that on your laptop or on your phone, and
and they did move you to PC here in the last
they
year.
tried eventually, but like
trying
to keep one of those services in a specific infrastructure is already limiting it too much for what people want.
Yeah.
So you want it to be. I mean, hell, I think the Amazon Fire thing is a little too restrictive at times.
Yeah. I agree with you. Like while I think there could have been long-term benefit eventually.
I mean, it wasn't a guaranteed loser. Like it could have paid. It could have hit.
Yeah.
It could have happened.
I just don't think Sony should be doing that, not PlayStation.
Yes.
Like PlayStation should worry about making great video game consoles and great hardware and great software. Its brand should not be worrying about locking down some TV show from the 80s.
I mean, really what it should have been Sony View, and it should have been on every Sony product and device.
Every TV, everything.
Yeah.
Yep. Every Blu-ray player, everything Sony makes.
Built into everything they ship.
I mean, it's dumb that Sony didn't do that.
But it's because...
Does some of the Bravia TVs have View built in?
I don't know. I would never buy a Bravia
right.
TV.
But you would think. But you would think it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like it should have.
I don't know.
It could have worked. It didn't. But
part of it is also just it's that thing where Sony's divisions don't talk to each other and hate each other.
Yeah.
Like
they compete with each other.
Like where people are talking about, it's like, oh, the Spider-Man thing with Sony Pictures and Disney is like, oh, that's going to affect. No, it's not going to affect PlayStation. Oh, they don't give a shit.
they're dancing around.
Yeah, somebody over at PlayStation is probably happy that Sony Pictures is going to rake over the coals again.
Schadenfreude. Yeah,
it's a very infighty company.
It is, for whatever reason.
And so then the end result of that is like, they don't cooperate on things like this where it could have been a boon, but it wasn't.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I do agree with you ultimately that it was smart for Sony to get out of that business because it's not its business at all.
No, and it's such a dogfight right now.
Yeah,
that
you don't know who's going to win. You really don't.
It's hard to say.
Yep, and so I agree that it was probably smart to get out of that business. But I will also say this: now that Vue is gone, the chances of me, and I hope DirecTV's not listening because they just got a great deal threatening to cut the cord. But with Vue out of the way, like the chances of me cutting the cord now are basically zero, unless somebody else can get Red Zone Channel and get better sports on their services. Like I'm kind of stuck now, so it was disappointing to me. This story also did a bunch of comments on Sifted, so I'm definitely not the only one who is either looking into it or already had it or was thinking about getting it in the future and are bummed out now that that's just simply not going to happen, but.
Well, maybe with the monthly fees that this family saves on Vue, they can get a different color in their damn house. What the hell?
They can't afford to do that when they have a Peloton. Once you buy a Peloton, you can't afford anything else.
We can either rip the paneling out of the entire lower floor or we can get an exercise bike. That was our choice. That was our summer choice.
Yep. All right, so there you go. PlayStation Vue, RIP. I still feel like we need to get a recording of taps on the TriCaster. So we can salute all these products that keep dying and we talk about on GameFace. There's at least one per month where we could play taps and pay our respects. But
you just press F.
We're going to talk next about EA. This is the season for financial reports, and EA just did its own financial reporting, and they had a call. EA's financial calls are usually really drab and really boring and bereft of information. But that was absolutely not the case with this one. It just kind of opened up the dam and was honest.
which is bizarre.
It's
for
really
EA.
bizarre for EA.
Between EA and Ubi, both like kind of doing this come to Jesus thing. It's just like, wow, what's going on here?
Yep. So EA basically said, we've been doing a lot of stuff wrong, and we're going to get it fixed. And
Or do anything. How about?
well, one thing that it
Release like 4 things a year. What are you doing?
Well, one thing that we have talked about with EA many times over that EA addressed is the fact that it has this gigantic catalog of IP that is just sitting there and dying. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things it said on the call is, and it is a little late to the party on this, but it said...
Just a tad.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to start reviving our old beloved proproperties and IP.
I mean, you hear that, and I'm excited, or I'm just like, oh, wow. It's very exciting that they might do Mass Effect Trilogy Remaster. And it's like you want to think that's what that means, but in reality, you're like, oh, it's a Need for Speed collection, huh? Neat. Like, it's like I don't expect to get what I want out of this remaster.
Matt, what would you like to see revive from EA's back catalog?
I mean, obviously, we need modern remasters of Mass Effect.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go...
That's the most obvious, I think.
I would go even further with Mass Effect. I would remake Mass Effect 1 to play like Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like, Mass Effect 1 is a very primitive feeling game now.
Do you think that's the smart thing to do, though? Financially?
Probably. Make a better game. Yeah.
But do you think people would buy a reworked Mass Effect 1 more than they would buy, like, something from EA's heyday, like a TIE Fighter or something like that they revived?
Well, because
that's older.
TIE Fighter's not an EA game, so they wouldn't be able to do that.
Oh, that was a LucasArts, yeah.
They have a Star Wars license. They don't own the Star Wars games.
Right.
If you're talking about back, I think Mass Effect is the best-selling thing they could possibly remaster.
You think so?
Absolutely, without any question whatsoever. It is the thing everybody wants. It's the thing that every single person I saw on Twitter when this news came up, they're like, "Where's Mass Effect?" Like, everybody wants Mass Effect on modern systems. But if you're talking about going like deep into the back catalog, if you're talking about like, but then you're talking about like, are we remastering or are we remaking? Because I would play a remake of Starflight in a second, but I would not play a remaster of it because that game's impossible to play now because it's really clunky.
Yeah,
they have a ton of stuff in the back. I mean, I would like to see a modern version of Mule.
I think Need for Speed Underground might, but here's the problem: EA.
I feel like there's a lot of licensing involved there.
Yep, that's EA's problem. So many of its old games have licenses that have long since expired that...
Certainly going to be a problem if you want EA big stuff.
Yeah, that'll never happen. There's just I don't think.
They made SSX 3 and Tricky backwards compatible on Xbox One.
They did. They figured out a way to make that work. That was just mostly music clearances, though. Yeah. You start talking about like products like Need for Speed, like they have to license all those parts from all those parts manufacturers.
Who made Run Like Hell with all the balls, energy drinks?
Yeah, I don't know. Who did make that?
I can't remember. I feel like that was like some weird little company or something.
That is really the drawback, though, of doing a lot of licensed stuff is they're not evergreen games. So my guess is that most of the stuff that EA revives are things where they didn't license anything for it. And they were just games that were built in-house, and they aren't like a sports game or a racing game with licensed cars and things like that.
Interplay.
Wow. May it also rest in peace. Yeah. We play some taps for that company as well. So, yeah, I think if I had to pick... If there was one EA game that they could revive, what would it be for you, Matt?
Revived like this, I think the biggest waste right now is Wing Commander.
Yeah,
just letting Wing Commander languish back there. With EA could make something that would like satisfy like a Wing Commander fan that doesn't want to wait 12 more years for Star Citizen to maybe get their single player module out like the next year, or even just remaster the old games and you're fine. Or clean up I'm sure the video ones are messy, but like, you really telling me like, in the wake of like the resurgence and popularity of Star Wars and all that people wouldn't buy Wing Commander with Mark Hamill in it?
Yeah.
Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah.
All this. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in there. I mean, it's cheesy and B movie-ish, but like, it's an interesting relic of those early CD games where we're like, oh, clearly live action integration is the future of video games. Like, no.
Nope.
But like, those Wing Commander 3 and 4 are interesting little oddities because it's probably about as high as the production value ever got at that era because Chris Roberts was a maniac.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the characters is named Maniac, played by Biff. But I would say Wing Commander is the franchise that they are just not leveraging properly, and it's just languishing in the vault, doing nothing. Such a good, huge series that they could be.
Back in the day, definitely. I mean, Westwood was legendary.
Yeah.
They should make like a Westwood collection, like remastered or remade.
I mean, they did at one point, but it's long, long ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
with modern technology.
And that is Origin, not Westwood Wing Commander. But Origin's all I would think that if you want like some kind of RPG, I mean, I know everything's got to be some kind of game as a service now, but like Ultima, like just do modern playable versions of the best Ultima games, and you've got, I mean, hell, just clean up Ultima 9, make it work properly, and you might have something right there.
Yeah.
That was a really early kind of open world thing.
It is interesting, though. Of all the publishers, I think EA has the least viable back catalog for stuff like this.
Yeah, well, because the problem is so much of their back catalog is A, ancient, and B, just doesn't have a modern verve to it.
Or they're in licensing hell, where you just can't do it.
But that's the price you pay. That's why I say like the BioWare back catalog is probably the most interesting approach.
Bring back Dante's Inferno.
Oh, that.
Remember that whole era
where
EA was actually trying to make new games and create new IP? It didn't go too well.
That wasn't the greatest concept in the world, but it was at least something.
I mean, the concept should be great. A game based on Dante's Inferno should be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But the way they handled it was like the comic book version of Dante's Inferno.
Right. I mean, it was the Image Comics circa 1995 version.
Yeah, it was bad.
There's a ton of stuff in there, but I mean, just there's so much you could do with what they have languishing back there, and just they don't do anything.
Well, they're gonna do something. We'll see what it is.
But again, it's gonna be like a Need for Speed thing, and like just.
So they said Command and Conquer,
maybe Dead Space,
and plus 2 more. So Dead Space, they could do something with that. But again, I just don't know.
I have Dead Space on modern consoles.
I mean, that's what I'm saying about like Mass Effect. Like, I just played it. Like, I don't need it to be revived yet.
I would like to see Mass Effect sort of brought up to modern standards, though.
Yeah, because they did make so many strides.
It's honestly the best thing they've done in 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Like a lot of it would have to be like ground up remakes of things, like Crash Bandicoot treatment, basically. Yeah. You don't have to change the game, but you are going to have to remake it because you just can't up-res it. You can't up-res it to the point that it would be acceptable now.
Yep. So EA said it's going to do that. It also said that Apex Legends is going to basically be its cash cow for the next 12 months.
That makes sense.
It doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, what else are you going to do?
I mean, what else is going to be the cash cow? I mean, it's the only game that's really kind of like in the lexicon right now. I would argue that the way they've supported it so far has been terrible. I mean,
it's been very uneven.
Yeah, I mean, you compare like the amount of updates in Apex Legends to its competitors like PUBG or Fortnite, and it's a joke.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, if you're really trying to compete with Fortnite, like I don't know why this is your plan. Like, it almost feels like they were caught off guard with how popular it became.
Right. Yeah. Like they didn't expect it to become a smash hit because maybe they are just like,
nothing ever does.
Right. Not for EA. It doesn't seem like it's been a while since it's really had like a gigantic like set the world on fire hit. All its games tend to do pretty well, but it just hasn't really had one that kind of broke through until this one. Mm-hmm. But then it also seemed like its popularity was short-lived because it just did not get the support that people are used to.
They weren't able to convert on the momentum.
Yeah, and it's faded now. Like I haven't played this game in months and months. And I have very little interest in doing so. So EA says this is what it's going to be pushing hard, while it makes a bunch of other changes. And one of the big changes is the next Battlefield is not coming until 2021 or 2022. So it's fiscal 2021, which means it could actually come in 2022, like the first few months of that year. So what do you think about that? Because that is kind of EA's cash cow. But Battlefield 5 was besieged with problems and issues and promises of content that never came or came half-baked.
I mean, it's felt like DICE needed to kind of regather itself for a while now.
Yeah.
especially in terms of like if you're really trying to reinvent Battlefield into something that is like a more of a complete package. They're like I like what they're after with Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, but like the execution's not there.
Do you think the war story stuff should stay, or do you think that they should do what Activision did and go back to a more traditional campaign?
I think the war story thing works. They just need better writers and better campaign designers. Like the idea of making it like more of a variety pack of like a big snapshot of the war in question. That's a great idea, and it makes it easier to. It's almost like a collection of short stories. Like it works better that way, but. I would say two things is they need to up their game in terms of both the design of the campaign stuff, because some of it's really good and some of it's a slog.
Yeah.
And they need to up that. They need to up the writing quality. The writing quality, I mean, the production value is there, but the writing quality, it doesn't quite know what to do except say, hey, war sure sucks, doesn't it? Like, you need a little more to it, character-driven wise. And third, they should be twice as long. Like, there's not enough. Like you need little bite-sized chunks of various places around the various theaters of war, but like you have to give me more because
I think the problem
three chunks is not enough.
I think the problem is
it should roll out over the course of the life of the game. Like you don't have to have it all there at launch, but supporting it single player to keep me coming back to play a new campaign thing, and maybe when I do that I go and I try some of the new multiplayer stuff while I'm there. That should be part of it.
I think the jumping around thing is what kills his campaigns, because you're always in some other country with some other soldier with some other objective, and they're never tied together. They just feel like these discrete, bite-sized chunks of nothing.
Well, that's what I mean when I say that the writing needs to be stepped up, in the sense that, first off, you could interleave these things more. They don't all have to be, one chunk. Like you could maybe have an option to play them all at once for each area, or you could play them in a campaign form where it cuts between each one. But what I'm saying about the writing is not just that like the writing moment to moment needs to be better, but you need to pick a theme for the whole game. You need to choose your different unrelated battle locations and characters as part of that theme. And even if these characters never meet each other and never even on the same front, I should see what you're trying to say with this story through these different characters and how they relate to each other in terms of what they're going through.
You can find a common thread. There is.
You can do a short story collection that runs on a theme and has something to say both as individual stories and as a collection of what you've read as a sum total. Like you can do that. It's not easy to do, but you're one of the most expensive games on the planet, and if anyone has the money to figure that out, it's you guys.
It should be.
So
absolutely.
That would definitely be my goal with the campaigns moving forward.
I agree with you. I think Battlefield needs a break. I'm burned out on it. I've been playing it for a really long time, and still, like...
You know what I'd love to see? Like, because Call of Duty won't touch it again? Future Warfare.
Yeah.
Like, do the far future... Like, I mean, they've done it before. They did the mech game that one time. They Battlefield 1, what was it, 2142?
Yeah.
Like, do a really crazy Infinite Warfare style, like, future thing. That could be fun with, like, the big battlefields and being able to fly, like, the ships and things around. Like, there's something there.
I think
because I really don't need to play another down and dirty 20th century warfare game from them for a while.
I think the problem is that Battlefield really hasn't changed since Battlefield 2.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The features, like the squad spawning and stuff like that nothing's really changed since then.
No.
Which, if you remember, I argued very hard for that game back when it came out.
Yeah.
And now it kind of makes sense.
Because
it was a pioneer.
That was still ridiculous. But they haven't evolved it since then, and that's part of the problem. They just sort of move the deck chairs around, and the other problem is like they started doing that thing where like we're not gonna give you everything that was in the last one, but we're gonna give you weird new permutations of certain things that were in the last. It's like it's like how I talk about like the WWE games. Like they don't build on what came before so much as they just sort of like step sideways.
Yeah. Well, this new WWE 2K20.
Well, yeah, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
Oh,
but like,
man.
but I mean, even when they found sort of I think Bad Company 2 is a really solid campaign, and then they just never went back to it again.
I think they didn't like that people found it comedic, even though it was intentionally comedic.
How was it? I mean, it's great though. Like a
Yeah,
comedic version. I mean, there was no one else doing that.
Yeah,
like
and
everyone
still
else,
there's no one doing it.
No, everyone else is super serious and super like somber, like weird, sad things without Winston Churchill quotes when you die and shit. It's like, but that one was a kind of a fun romp. Like you can do that. It's okay. It's okay to make it a little different.
Yep.
That's still one of my favorite moments of Last Generation is when the satellite goes crashing over their heads and smashes down like a mile away, and the one dude who's obsessed with explosions goes, "That is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life." And I'm like, "That's great!" Like that's
yeah.
And I couldn't quote you a goddamn line out of the last 5 Call of Duties.
Yep.
So
that's true.
Who's doing better?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or any line out of the fucking last 2 Battlefields. Like,
yeah. Another thing that EA announced is that it canceled NBA Live 20. And
is this like the second time NBA Live has gone away?
I mean, it's
NBA Live seems to like is the least appropriately named NBA franchise.
That's funny. You're right, though. No, it's is it happening? Is it not happening? That's been going on for like half a decade.
It just
now.
seems like it periodically like EA just like looks at the 2K NBA games and just goes, "What's the point?"
Yeah, because they're
Which
so far
is true.
behind.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So but here's the thing: they actually haven't ended the franchise. They just canceled NBA Live 20, and they're going to re-debut the franchise with Generation 9 with the new consoles. So
maybe this time.
I still think it's a lost cause.
Oh, absolutely.
I just think EA's flushing money down the toilet, but.
You know what they should do is they should take all that and they should really focus on making the best hockey game ever made.
Yeah, I mean,
I know the audience for that isn't as big, but no one's doing that. It's a space in the market.
NHL 20 is pretty good.
Yeah,
but it's.
But imagine it with like resources.
It, like a big budget and everything. I mean, they have that little like 50-guy team in Canada that makes the EA games, and they can only do so much.
Like,
it's impressive that they get the game done.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not a big enough market.
It's a niche sport. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, here's some kind of good news. EA also announced that in next generation it will be launching a brand new sports franchise.
Oh boy!
I don't know if you saw this week.
Finally, the ultimate frisbee game we've waited for.
I don't know if you saw this week, but the NCAA just finally decided to let players make money off of their names and likenesses. So
seems like a pretty obvious move.
My thought is it's either NCAA football or NCAA basketball. I'm leaning towards football because
I would think football because that's their strength.
It's sold way better than NCAA basketball.
And I mean, what's going to happen over at 2K? They're just going to start making an NCAA basketball game too,
probably,
and like you're not going to be able to outclass that either.
Yeah. So yeah, stick with football. I mean, there are people dancing and celebrating that NCAA football may finally come back. There's a lot of people who like it way more than Madden. I'm not one of them. I'm not a big college football guy.
My dad was he didn't watch. I don't think I can recall him ever watching an NFL game, but he watched college football at all times. If he was awake, there was a college football game on somewhere.
There's a lot of people like that. I have friends that are like that.
He was never, through his whole life, he was never quite able to explain to me what the difference was, why he liked one over the other. Because I always assumed that NFL was more interesting because it was like the higher stakes pro level thing. I'm like,
well, it's the higher skill play.
And I was like, what's so interesting about college football, especially when you didn't go to any of these schools?
Yeah.
And like, he would give me some vague answer. I assumed it was because I didn't know enough about football to understand the difference, and he didn't want to explain it to me. So he was just like, it's just different things in the rules and how it works and stuff. I just like it better. Just go away.
I think some people who like college football just like the aesthetic of it. The idea that these are people who are unpaid, who are playing for the love of the game, and they're not as good.
Well, not anymore.
Right. And they're not as good, and they make mistakes here and there, and that keeps games exciting. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like NFL way more than NCAA. So,
and I guess it's also sort of an outgrowth of like sort of the high school football culture, which I didn't have because we didn't have a high school football team, and I was in a more urban area. But like, I always
Friday Night Lights.
I love the Friday Night Lights aesthetic, like that idea of like the whole town showing up for the game, and like everybody. It's like a community thing. I mean, I've seen it happen. I've been in smaller towns for various things, shoots and stuff where that happened. Like the only thing to do
on
that
a Friday night
was to go to the local high school football game, and even though we were out of town weirdos, they were just like, "Come on in!"
Yeah, that's where you went.
Everyone was so nice. It was a really cool thing.
Carlisle, PA, in a nutshell, right there. Central PA in a nutshell. All there is on Friday night.
And it smells so good.
Yeah, all the garlic fries.
And somebody's barbecuing something, and like just the grass and everything. Like I get it. Like that college football is sort of that writ large.
Yeah.
And it has that same sort of tribalism of like the various even if you didn't
geographical.
I mean, if you didn't go to Auburn or you didn't go to Alabama, you live in those areas, you are still War Damn Eagle and Roll Damn Tide.
Absolutely,
I get it. But like there's a hometown element to it that doesn't necessarily exist where you're like, if you're rooting for some
Carolina Panthers.
Right.
It's like, but I'm in South Carolina, or I'm in which Carolina is it? Like,
yeah, it's like you're rooting for a team that's like 5 states over.
It's the region. Yeah,
because you're in Montana or something. You know, I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But it would be nice. I mean, I know that's not really a new franchise, but I guess it's been gone so long that it might as well be.
It was gone this whole generation. Yeah. So
like that's cool. Like I would consider getting that. I would consider getting a college.
It could be
game.
huge. That's my guess. We'll see. But it did say one new sports game coming, so that's to me the best guess.
It's either that or like some crazy offbeat, like we don't even know.
Yeah,
like highlight or something.
It could be. So all this stuff that EA is doing, do you think it makes a difference?
Maybe. I mean, what they've laid out here, like you've got my interest a couple places. It just sort of depends on what you're actually like. The details are what matter now. Yeah. Like I don't like none of this sounds bad to me. It just like I'm just kind of expecting to be disappointed.
Well, my perspective is I'll believe it when I see it.
Right.
Because we're dealing with EA. I've heard stuff like this from EA before, and then it either bails on it or just never does it, period.
Right.
So,
and it's just like the remaster thing is exciting in the sense that there's so much stuff I'd love to play from their back catalog, but personally I believe it's like, here's a remaster of SSX Blur. It's like, go fuck yourself. Like, come on.
I don't need that.
Here's all the Dead Space games. I have all the Dead Space games.
Yeah.
What do you,
it could be something like that,
could be something like that, but again, I mean, the only way to solve that would be for me to get a job at EA and I don't know.
That's not happening.
Claw my way up the executive wing until I got in a position to greenlight the
They go back and look at some of these
remasters.
episodes of GameFace. That's not happening.
No.
Eve Demon is saying, do you think EA should go full mobile? That's where they make most of their money. He's right. But no.
No.
They still make some games that I want to play.
Every once in a while.
Yeah. So I don't want to go all the way mobile.
I mean, maybe they could go full mobile after they lose the Star Wars license.
There we go.
With that.
All right, let's move on. We're gonna
full mobile except for Respawn. Let Respawn keep making real video games. How about that?
Yeah. This show's gonna run over because we just burned like 15 minutes trying to figure out what happened to the show. So the show's gonna run a little over because we still have 2 topics left and it's already 3:30. We're gonna talk next about the PlayStation 4. We're not gonna just talk about it. We're gonna celebrate it. The PlayStation 4 just became the second best-selling console of all time. It just eclipsed the Wii, and it's now only behind the PlayStation 2. When the PlayStation 4 launched, did you ever dream it could reach these heights?
No, not that height, but at the same time, I was one of the few people who wasn't sitting around saying that it was going to be a huge disappointment and this was the last game console generation.
Yeah.
That was a big topic.
It was.
When that was changing over, and Pachter was saying the same thing about like, oh, they're going to sell fine, but they're not going to sell like, you know, the old systems used to sell like because no one really cares about consoles anymore. And I was just saying, it's like bullshit. Like everybody, I mean, it's not a thing. Like, what are you talking about? And here we are again. And of course, we're going to get that same rhetoric moving into next year about like everyone's like, oh, this is the last time you'll be able to sell anybody a video game console, PlayStation 5. It's like, sure.
Well, to be fair, the more we go through time, the more likely it is that it will be true.
Yeah, the more likely we'll get hit by an asteroid. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon either. Like, it's not there yet, and it's not going to be there yet for a very long time. And the interest is clearly still there because people keep buying this damn thing.
Do you think it's as good as the consoles it's eclipsing? Because we're pretty much at the end here of the PlayStation 4.
I think most of them, yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know if it matches up to some of my old-time favorites, but a lot of my old-time favorite consoles were never on that list to begin with.
Right. I mean, is it the best video game console ever?
It's not my favorite, but it's really good.
I think it might be.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just because the overall quality of games is so high now. Like, you go back and look at the PlayStation 2, there's a lot of trash on that console.
Oh, yeah.
And the PlayStation 1, a lot of trash.
That's sort of a factor of the era, though, where, like, no one can afford trash now. No one can afford to put out trash now. If you put out some of that crap that was on PlayStation 2 now, your company go under in a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just pump out the garbage back in those
people
days.
bought it.
Oh, yeah.
Like crazy.
You never knew when you were going to be. But, like, look at some of the stuff that got made, like that terrible Apocalypse game that had Bruce Willis in. Like, somebody paid for Bruce Willis to be in a twin-stick shooter, for God's sake.
It's crazy.
You couldn't even see his face in the game.
It's like, why? Just so you can put his face on the box, basically. Yeah. That's the only reason.
stuff like that. So yeah, I guess you could argue it was a little more experimental and interesting in that regard. But like the quality of the games has been crazy.
I mean, even look at the indie stuff. I mean, the indie stuff is better than ever. Like all of it. It's just the games are better than ever. The console, in my opinion, was perfect. And not like a perfect phone call.
Well,
but like seriously though, the power level, the ease of development, its features, its ease of use, everything about it. Like they just nailed it. Like it hit the perfect middle ground between price and performance.
Yeah, certainly in the beginning of the generation. I think it got eclipsed a little bit in terms of power. I don't think the PS4 Pro was the jump it needed to be. Really.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
But it certainly didn't hurt anything.
Yeah. I mean, I have one now. A lot of people bought it still, the PS4 Pro.
I mean, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. It's probably not fair to compare it to the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 or the Xbox. Well, Xbox 360 I think is fair. Which is better, PlayStation 4 or Xbox 360? There you go.
I mean, overall, I probably had a better time with the Xbox 360, but
it was the first HD console.
Yeah, and
it had the wow
online,
factor.
So where online came into its own, and like it was the first time you got to play some of this online stuff in a really well done way off of a PC. But in terms of a kind of like if you're just going to compare like exclusive things and what you can only play on that system, like I think PS4 might have the strongest exclusive lineup in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I know the Nintendo fans will not be happy with that statement, but like Nintendo ain't made anything like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, and Spider-Man in a long time.
Yeah, those all came out pretty close to each other.
Right next to each
well.
other. I mean, I think the closest I think Nintendo's come is this generation with the Switch.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, I said it before. I think the Switch is Nintendo's best console ever.
Yeah, I mean,
I know people don't want to hear that.
By the end of the run, I can definitely see that being true.
Yeah, I mean, even look at what's happened so far. How many of its big IP we got in the first couple of years?
If the next Zelda, if the Zelda sequel and Metroid Prime 4 knock it out of the park, I will without reservation agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think it's easy to have your perspective clouded by nostalgia.
Oh yeah. Well, as I always say, like the best thing isn't always my favorite thing. Like, one of my favorite systems is always going to be the Saturn.
Yeah.
The Saturn was not a very good video game console.
Yeah.
But it had a lot of my favorite games on it at the time, and there's still some of my favorite games.
Yeah.
But I would never sit there and argue that the Saturn should be, like, number 3 on the
Right.
best systems of all time list, because that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, you got to, at that point, you got to get down to individual titles. Like, Panzer Dragoon Saga is probably, like, my 3rd favorite game of all time. But even back then, I was going to try to use it as an argument to get someone to buy a Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
Like, that's just... that's a non-starter. But in PlayStation 4, someone comes to me and says, like, someone just came in on Facebook to me yesterday and was like, I want to buy my 6-year-old son a game. He wants a game console, so what should I get? And I told her I get the Switch.
Yeah.
But like,
I do the same thing.
The only dividing line between those two consoles in that situation to me is the age of the kid in question. If he was old enough and was allowed to play online, I'd say PlayStation 4. Like, they're on par in terms of like the quality you're getting.
Do you think we'll ever see another console sell as much as the PS4?
I think we might see the PS5.
Really?
Like, you don't know.
I don't. I think this is it. I think this is the pinnacle.
I mean, people.
It
have
also
said that
coincided with a great time financially for a lot of people. I mean, the U.S. economy has been rocking for like 12 years straight now. Everybody has a job. Like, it's just been the sweet spot. Like,
well, we'll see. I think all predictions that the consoles have peaked are always going to be wrong until some real revolution in how hardware works comes along.
Yeah.
Like until we are fully in digital world and no one's buying game discs anymore.
I mean, look, it's still not going to beat the PS2. The PS2 is still ahead by 50 million units.
Yeah, the PS2 is not beatable except should, I don't know, a change in how we consume media occur.
It'll
I don't
never
know
happen.
what would even have to.
I mean, think about
that.
Because
that's what the PS2 was. It was the DVD player.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a point at which people were just buying PS2s for every room
to
in
watch
the house.
The Matrix. Yeah.
Like,
then it got really cheap, and that could happen with PS4, where it gets down to $100, and
this isn't over.
It still sells another 20 million units or whatever. Yeah. So, but I don't think it'll hit the
I don't
PlayStation.
think that close,
I think the PS2 was the pinnacle. Like, it was. For whatever reason, it just hit the cross-section of the technology coming into its own, the game developers becoming better at what they were doing, the console becoming a multimedia device for the first time. It was the perfect storm, and I just don't think we'll see it again. But kudos, man. PlayStation 4,
Yeah, but at the
up
same
there.
time, like there's tons of people that were convinced you'd never see another console outsell the Wii.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah, that's true. And it just barely did, but still.
And the Wii was way cheaper.
And the Wii was also, it's not even really, it's like an apples and oranges comparison because people are buying software for their PlayStation 4s.
Right.
People were just buying the Wii and playing Wii Sports.
Right,
so.
but that gives the Wii the advantage in that comparison.
Yeah, as far as just hardware functionality.
It was cheaper, and it was a fad, and it was like a big thing that
Yeah.
even non-gamers were buying because it was the hot new thing that was reported on all the local news and all that crap. It's very impressive the PS4 did that, has done what it's done, one way or the other. But it also doesn't super shock me because I knew that all the doom and gloom over the end of end of game consoles was bullshit then, and it's bullshit now.
I think I would
and when
say
it's no longer bullshit, I will let you know. But it ain't right now.
I think I would also say, and you didn't declare this, but I will. I would probably say the Xbox 360 is the greatest video game console ever right now, up to this point. And again, a lot of it is what you said.
I certainly
you
own the most
articulated
software
it very
for
well. Yeah, me too. Everything. So many things started for the first time with Xbox 360, or at least they were perfected for the first time.
And to the point, I mean, it says something that even at this point in this generation, we are looking at the various online features and other functionalities of both of these consoles and saying, like, how come it's not as good as it was on the 360 10 years ago?
I know. And we're even Xbox One.
Yeah.
Every time I boot it up, I'm like, why is this so much slower than my Xbox 360? It's insane. But I never thought I'd see the day where I would say Microsoft has made the best console ever. But
yeah.
I just think it's the truth. I just think it's reality. So, and I'm sure people will be pissed off when they hear that too. But nope, some people in the chat are saying they agree. I'm not completely on it.
I mean, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say.
Yeah. I just think that the Xbox brand doesn't have the affinity that Nintendo or Sony or even Sega at this point still has. Like, people romanticize those platforms more than Xbox
that's
platforms.
coming, though, because the people who were kids and grew up with their Xbox 360 are going to start hitting their late 20s, and that's when
they're going to be like we are with
the nostalgia
like, the
kicks
NES
in
and the SNES.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. It's time to talk about Luigi's Mansion 3, our last topic for episode 189. And I cannot wait to talk to you about this video game. Matt, have you played it?
Yeah.
How much have you got through?
I'm like halfway up the elevator.
Okay. So you're probably at like the 8th or 9th floor, something like that?
I think I'm on the 7th or 8th, yeah.
Okay. I finished it, and I have spent a good amount of time with multiplayer as well. And I just have to say, I freaking love this video game. I love it. It is one of my Game of the Year contenders.
Well, I wouldn't go that far for myself. However, I will say, first, maybe not foremost, but first, this is the best-looking game Nintendo's ever made.
It's the best.
It is by far the best-looking thing on the system. It is every single shot has ridiculous detail. The stitching on his gloves, there's details in this that I never even thought about Mario characters, and it's in there.
This game is EAD crack.
Yeah, it is one of the most impressive visual achievements Nintendo's ever had.
Not only is this a Game of the Year contender for me, best graphics of 2019 contender for me.
Absolutely.
It is
even on the Switch.
Spellbinding.
It's crazy.
It is spellbinding, this game.
Every area has something in it. All the ghost effects are crazy good. It never chugs once. Like the whole thing is just it's like butter put on the screen.
It's insane. Crazy. This game is freaking awesome. Like
there's moments in this in actual gameplay that look to me, I'm like, that's as good as like a DreamWorks picture.
Like a CG.
It's ridiculous.
It's insane. The animation in this game is bonkers.
There's nothing else on this level right now.
It's unreal. Like just him jumping up to turn on a sink. Like it's crazy.
Like the personality. It reminds me of watching like those old like behind the scenes specials about the old Disney animation classics where you'd see like the 9 old men and how they'd like, oh, this guy does this and so we stretch this and squash it. Yeah. The mesh of artistry and science as to how to depict the animation is astounding. Like it's
insane.
It's ridiculously good.
This game is so good. Like, it is...
And by the way, I don't remember, is it Universal making the movie? The Mario movie?
Yeah.
I hope you're talking to the people who made these cutscenes.
Dude, what
for that
happened
movie
with Nintendo's
their
animation team? Think back to Super Mario 64, or even like Mario like Sunshine or Mario Galaxy.
Where it was just an afterthought.
Where animation was like, it
It's
hardly
good,
even
but
existed. Oh my god, they become the masters. Like, also, some of these cinematics that I'm like, oh, those are they're not.
Yeah,
like,
they're in-game.
They're in-game. Like, you'll see, like, a stray heart that you left behind floating behind the
like
character.
The debris layer. Like, this is some of the most impressive. It's funny that, like, this came out at the same time, like, so shortly. At the end of the month, the beginning of the month, we got the Ghostbusters remaster.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is the first time I've been as impressed with debris and blowing stuff apart in comparison to that Ghostbusters game, and they're both about ghostbusting.
Yeah.
What's that about?
I mean, this is a Ghostbusters knockoff, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same exact concept.
But, like, you can rip a room apart and debris flies everywhere and stuff. You're sucking the money up in midair. It's ridiculous.
It feels it's so fun.
Yeah.
Like, the game... Look, okay, I have criticisms of it. It's not perfect. And my biggest criticism is that it gives you everything, like, right away. Like, as far as...
I felt like I missed tutorial elements early on. I felt like it didn't ever teach me quite how to capture I mean, I knew because I'd played the first game.
Right.
I never
It doesn't tell you how to capture ghosts, really.
I never actually played the DS one.
Oh, okay. Dark Moon.
Is the ghost dog from that?
Yeah.
Is that where the Polterpup comes from?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's your sidekick. He
all of a
gives you
sudden-
hints and tips.
Why is he afraid of ghosts, but he's not afraid of the ghost dog that
dog.
lives
It's
with
like
him?
his best buddy.
I don't know.
But the problem, so my problem with it is, and it's, again, I'm nitpicking, is that they give you all your abilities, like, right away. You don't earn, like, new abilities as you go.
Yeah, I did notice you get everything dumped on you pretty early.
With the first, like, 3 hours, you have your whole arsenal that you're going to use through the whole game. And so it does kind of lack a little bit of that progression arc that you're looking for in modern video games.
I admit that's kind of why. I mean, it's a charming, pleasant little candy of a game, fitting for something that came out on Halloween.
Yeah.
But like, I forget I own it. Like I haven't played more, not because I don't like it, but because I sit down to play stuff, and then like halfway through I'm playing something else. I'm like, oh yeah, I have Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
I could play that. I just don't think about it. And like, part of it is because I'm hitting that floor 7, 8, 9 stretch where I feel like, oh,
you're not getting anything
I'm not
new.
getting anything new. It's not going to evolve the gameplay. I'm just sort of doing new permutations and trying to.
It stays that way to the end.
And like, that's unfortunate, but like, that's really the only complaint I can really think of. All that, and like, I wish there was a slightly more elegant way of turning him when you have a charged light flash.
Or when you use the supernatural lens to reveal stuff. Because you lock in to whatever direction you're facing.
Yeah, you're stuck in whatever direction, which is handy if you know what you're after, but if someone changes direction and you don't want to recharge that, you're like, well, now I got to reach over with my thumb and turn the thumbstick because I can't do that because I'm using this to charge that.
And it still doesn't really work anyway, to be honest with you.
It's a minor control complaint.
You kind of have to, like, I started thinking about it.
But it's just so weird to run into something like that in a Nintendo game because they usually streamline that stuff to hell and back.
I started thinking about it, and I could not think of a different way for them to handle it,
no,
unfortunately.
Literally the only solution I can think of is like, well, really, the game should read my mind.
Right.
Like, there's no other solution. I mean, there's nothing they could do. It's just that's the only place it gets awkward.
So while...
But it's nothing.
So while the progression arc, as far as, like, gameplay elements does kind of end once you get a few hours into the game, what keeps you going after that is what is around the next corner. Because
like, what's this floor going to be like?
Yeah, because the way they've designed this, the last Luigi's Mansion was one tone the whole way. It was a good tone, but it was the same the whole time, and all the levels were the same. You were just in this mansion with these ghosts. And honestly, that game probably ended at the right time for what it offered. This game is like probably 3 times as long as the original Luigi's Mansion, and it never gets stale because every floor is a completely different theme. And when I say completely different theme, it's not just like, okay, this is a jungle level, and this is the snow level, and this is the beach level. Like, the mechanics in those levels change. So, have you got to the desert floor yet?
No.
Yeah, oh my god. So you start in what looks like a hotel, and you have like that little landing area outside the hotel doors, and then you finish with that area, and there's a door that you walk through, and you walk out it, and you're in the desert, basically. And it is all covered in sand, and you can vacuum and blow all of it. It's insane. So at first, when I started playing the level, I was like, oh, this is fun. I can just, like, suck up all the sand in this desert and make, like, tunnels and pathways and all this stuff. And then I started to realize that I could, like, blow it and push it and make platforms out of it. And I was like, oh, I'm a genius. Like, I wonder if anyone thought to just blow it and, like, make, like, their own platforms. And then the game starts making you do it. You get inside, like, the dungeon, and suddenly they're asking you, you need to blow the sand correctly to build platforms so you can get to places you need to go. This game is freaking amazing. Like, it is just next level in so many ways. Like, you don't get bored in this game because it is so fun to just walk into a room that's cluttered with crap and just start blowing and vacuuming it and watching all the stuff fly off of the shelves and just scatter along the room and then slowly get sucked into the vacuum. Like, the physics and stuff in this are freaking amazing. Like, this game is awesome. Go buy it right now. Like, I don't get into I don't know what other reviewers were thinking business, but reviews sold this game so freaking short. Like, nobody talks about the brilliance that's in this thing. Like,
what did it? I didn't actually look at reviews.
It's like an 8.4, something like that. It's not outside the realm of reason. It's not like they bombed the game or whatever. I'm just talking more about the substance of their reviews, about what they didn't talk about. Like, the stuff that would make people understand why it got such a high score. Most of the reviews were like, it's more Luigi's Mansion, and that's pretty cool. Like, no. Like, this game is, like, next level crap. Like, it is EAD.
I mean, I don't know one way or the other because I didn't play the second game, but, like, it definitely didn't feel like just more Luigi's Mansion.
Look at this. Like, that feels, when I'm pulling all those dollar bills off, the sound effects and the feedback that you're getting in the Joy-Cons when that is it's just awesome. Like, this game is great. Like, this is easily top 3 game of the year for me. It's going to be a hard decision for me. There's still some stuff to come out that could certainly compete. But I'm looking back across it. To me, hands down, whether this is game of the year or not, this is the best crafted game of 2019. I have not played a game that has more attention to detail, more care. You can just tell that every room in this game was just worked on for just weeks and weeks. Like, every room, like, you look at it, what we're playing right now,
even the stuff you get, like, you know, because, like, when you suck up things that you can, like, get, you know, items, the items that come out of the things you suck up make sense to come out of the things you suck up.
Everything is so
like, you get dollar bills that come out of coats.
Right.
Like, it's just like it makes it. It's there's
like,
a lot of thought.
Watch this bag
here.
of money. When that money goes into the air and you kick it up and you start, it feels so amazing. Like, I can't even put it into words. And I think that is one of the traits of the best games. When you cannot even put it into words what it is about it that makes it so awesome. Like, it's just the way it feels. Like, every room has just tons of secrets. So it's fun to just go into a room and just fiddle around. Just use the vacuum to pull on stuff, tug on stuff, blow stuff around.
And that's how you find the secrets and the crystals in each the gems in each floor.
Yeah, each floor has like 6 to 8 hidden gems that you can find. And one thing I will say, too, is that, like, you get money for most of the rewards in this, and the money's, like, worthless. Like, you buy, like, extra lives, or you can buy, like, a crystal detector or a boo detector.
It certainly isn't particularly difficult.
No, the battles and the fights are easy as crap. Yeah. But the puzzle stuff, like,
figuring out what you need to do for each ghost boss eventually gets more interesting because, like, you have to figure out the trick, and then, like, say, okay, that's cool, you know. But it's never like it's not some kind of, like, difficulty based slog. But it's just there.
Sucking
to be
up fun. The ghost is easy.
It's there to be fun.
It is. Some of the stuff with Luigi later on, it'll test your mental capacity to figure out some of the puzzles and stuff. And I would also argue that those are some of the least fun parts of the game when you're using Luigi.
I always thought that like, the first time you really have to deal with sort of a puzzle thing is, like, on this one floor where you have to keep getting this different keys.
Yep.
Those the different keys, the spade and heart and diamond, the card suit keys.
Yep.
And there's a point where it's like, okay, I've gone up and down the stairs enough times now, and they're trying. You can see them trying to keep it light and get you know, teaching you how to use Luigi in that section, but, like, by the time I was done with that, I'm like, I'm done with that part. Like, we can not do that for a couple floors now.
It never gets like that again.
Yeah.
Like, and some of the puzzles in this game are like genius. Like, literally, when you figure them out, you're like, who frickin' thought of this?
Although
like,
even when you're getting through it, because I think you have to open like 4 or 5 cash registers with the keys over the course of that puzzle. But even by the last cash register, the cutscene where he puts the key in and turns it feels so concrete, and the animation's so.
The snicked of the key, like seating in the lock.
And it just, like, the key just looks like you could reach out and grab it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the simplified visuals let them add so much fidelity to it that it doesn't even matter.
The art style's perfect. Like, this is the perfect culmination of art style and hardware.
Yeah.
Like, they will never top this game on Switch. This is the best looking game on Switch. I don't think they'll ever beat it, because by the time this team is ready to do something else, Switch 2 will be here.
I mean, even if you make like a Mario Odyssey 2 that uses this same aesthetic for the most part, the areas are going to be too big to have the fidelity there.
So, Matt, you probably remember I have talked about this multiple times on GameFace, where I have been waiting for a developer to make a game where it's all indoors and it can just make the most use out of whatever hardware it's on, and that's exactly what this game is. There are so many crazy. Look at just the fog coming underneath the walls on the right there. Like, everything in the game is volumetric. So that's sand, volumetric. That's why you can suck it up and you can blow it and like build sandcastles with it. Fog in the game gets sucked into the vacuum. Like, and you don't even notice it sometimes. Like, you'll be standing next to like that little switch over there that's like smoking a little bit, and you'll start seeing like little wasps of that smoke starting to curl like towards the vacuum. Like, it's crazy. This game is just, it's next level. Like,
I mean, the GameCube one was like that too. Like,
it was.
For the time.
Yeah, for the time. It was like mind blowing. And like, that's all it could hang its hat on.
Look at the stitching on his shirt.
Oh, I know.
Look at the material. If you ever wondered what it would feel like to touch Luigi,
and we all have.
This game answers that question.
I don't know. I don't know what else I can say to tell you it's awesome. This game is freaking awesome. It took me about 16 hours to finish the campaign, and I will say this, like, I got into this game to where I was searching around and like trying to find every gem on every floor. I don't know how long it would take you if you just plowed through it and just like, because the way the game is set up is you have an elevator, but all the keys are missing from the elevator. So when you defeat a boss, they give you a button for a new floor of the elevator. And so,
unless a mouse steals it.
Right. And so each floor has like a boss that you need to beat to get the button for the next floor. And then it also has like those 8 gems to find. There's a boo to find on every level, and you have to use like the feedback on the Joy-Cons to like hunt down the boos. You may not even got to that yet.
No, I can.
Have you got there?
Now, yeah.
Okay. And that's, I think, the last power that you ever get is that rumble whenever you get close to a boo. So you do all that on each floor, and then there's 17 floors. And this game is so ripe for DLC because all they have to do is just stack another floor on the hotel. It can go forever. The multiplayer,
It
won't.
They'll never do any DLC for it.
I don't think they will. I think they will.
I don't think they will.
We'll
think
see.
This is it. I think they're going to self-contain it. You could do a whole other tower.
Yeah. I mean, you could just build another tower next to it. Like, it could keep going on forever. And if they put the same TLC into the game they did into this one, I'm there. The multiplayer, I will say I was a little disappointed by, but it's still really fun. It's just a horde mode where you and 3 players just go through level after level, and you have to do it within a time limit. Having to deal with other people was a bit of a problem. I don't know if it's because
that's just life.
I mean, it is, but I don't. I'm saying in relation to other like consoles playing online, like people just kind of throw temper tantrums playing this, and I don't know if it's because the people playing are kids or whatever. But like a lot of times you'd be like halfway through a floor and people would just quit and give up and like go to the end room and just like shoot each other with the vacuums. Like, it got frustrating. Like, I was trying to make progress through it, and most of the people I was playing with didn't care about that, and it did get a little frustrating. I did have a few matches with people who were into it as much as I did, and I had a really good time. It's just more of an awesome experience, in all honesty. But like I said, it did take me about 16, 17 hours to finish the campaign, and I was spending a good bit of time hunting around, trying to find all the gems. I did not 100% it. There's a lot of them out there that I still have not tracked down. But go buy this game. If you hate it, I'll pay you for it. Like, seriously, like, it's that good. I'm that confident in somebody buying this game and thinking it's just as awesome as I think it is. Here, there's the sand level. Oh, okay, so what we thought was fog is actually sand. When we saw this trailer before, we're like, oh, he's sucking up the fog. That's the sand level I was talking about. And it just keeps getting better. Like, you just never know what's going to be around or what's going to be the next floor up in this game. Like, brilliance, Nintendo brilliance. When people talk about the Nintendo difference, this is it. This is the game that shows people what that means. This is the pixie dust that we talk about with Nintendo games. This is it. This has that special sauce slathered all over it, like the attention to detail on every little nook and cranny of this game. It's EAD. It's the real team at Nintendo with a master class on how to make video games. It's awesome. You guys tired of hearing me gush over this game? Because I got more. Like, I love it. This is also the most fun I've had playing a game this year. It helps that it's not, like, deathly serious. You're not worried about people dying or getting their heads blown off or whatever. It's certainly lighthearted. But there's also some genuinely, like, spooky, I wouldn't go scary, but I would say there are some parts of this game that will bother kids that are a little disturbing and maybe a little bit much for, like, 5-6-year-old kids. So it's not, like, totally, like, kidified or whatever. There are some parts of it, and there's some innuendo and a little bit of the text. There's no voice acting. It does, like, the Banjo-Kazooie, like, mumble speech.
Yeah, I mean, Mario and Luigi talk as much as they, there's like, Mario, I don't. There's the Charles Martin that's sort of like
all through
chattering.
He does a great job, too. Like, with Luigi, like, his emotes and, like, his little quips. Like, when I first started playing this game, and my wife was hanging out while I was playing it in the living room, we laughed for, like, in the first hour. Just what Luigi was, like, saying as he kind of looked at stuff and checked it out. Great freaking game, man. This is Nintendo in all its glory. If you're talking about the Nintendo difference, to me, this is the game that typifies it more than anything. More than Zelda. More than Me Too Zelda. Which, Zelda was like, hey, we're making games like everybody else now, but it's got Zelda paint on it. This is Nintendo. This is all Nintendo's ideas. This is all Nintendo's polish. It's just amazing. I freaking love it. So there you go. Anything you want to add about it?
No, I mean, I'm not as over the moon with it as you are.
What other criticisms do you have of it?
I don't really have criticisms of it. I just think it's sort of it's sort of like in the same way that, like, a really good cake isn't my favorite meal of all time. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a delightful little treat. But at the same time, when you talk about, like, it's the most fun I've had playing a game all year, and I'm like, well, I must have had more fun playing something else all year.
I can't think of anything.
I mean, there's games that might have spoken to me more, like Disco Elysium. But did I have
more of, like, an emotional impact?
Did I have fun playing Disco Elysium in the way I have fun playing this? No, because it's a different thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the end, probably I don't. I mean, and partly it says something about the year to me. But, like, this probably is in my game of the year ranking when it's going to come down to it. I mean, I still have my fingers crossed that Fallen Order just blows everything out the back of the theater. But, like,
I'm definitely holding out for that.
I don't know. Like, this is just in terms of production value and it all works and it all is. There's care taken in it. Like, there's I don't have a lot to say other than, like. I mean, it is a little awkward to play early on, but, like, I think it's partly because it's not like anything else.
Yep.
No one's making Luigi's Mansion clones.
Nope, that's for sure.
So, it's unique.
And we probably won't get another one for another 10 years, probably.
Well, I don't know. We'll see if this one sells well. Maybe we'll get another one on the next Switch.
I mean, they did put out one for 3DS not long ago.
Yeah.
So I think that was testing the waters to make sure this thing wasn't going to tank. And this could tank, by the way. Like, this game could absolutely, like, sell like crap, and we never see another one again.
It could, but it'd be a shame.
It would be a crying shame. This game lets Nintendo be creative more than any of its other licenses.
Yeah, I mean,
because it gives you carte blanche to do whatever you want, especially now that they set it up on floors.
It's not like I was super looking forward. It was, this is not a franchise that, like, gets my attention automatically or anything. But even, like, I bought it, preloaded it. I'm like, here we go. It's coming out Halloween. Here we go. And but it's delightful. Like, it's in a way that, like, Mario tries to be but often doesn't achieve.
Yeah.
Like, this one does it. Like, this one figures it out. Like, the mainline Mario games should have this level of polish and quality. And
I don't feel like it does anymore.
No, I don't think it does either.
I didn't think Breath of the Wild had it either. So this, to me, is like the toss back Nintendo doing Nintendo better than it.
Yeah, it feels like a GameCube game in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, like back when they were really knew what they were about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love it. I love Luigi's Mansion 3. Buy it, buy it, buy it. Full price. Don't wait for discounts. You won't get one anyway.
Yeah, it's never going to get you.
This game may, if it doesn't sell, it may never come down in price.
If you don't, unless you intend to wait like 4 years, like you're paying full price for this one.
Yep. So I give it my highest recommendation.
Or at least throw it into your Target buy 2 get 1 free plan.
Oh sure, yeah.
You know, make it part of your purchasing.
Yep. And again, don't worry about the stigma of the first game where it was like really short. I think I gave the first one like a 7.5 or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to write an eval for this. You'll see my eval score for this very soon. So there you go. Luigi's Mansion 3, only available for Switch.
And just enjoy like the weird little tech tricks that like
pay attention to what's happening.
Even games on the more powerful consoles aren't trying.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's part because they've, like you said, it's indoors. They have very small areas they have to worry about, but they're still doing it.
Yeah.
It's still a really cool example of something that people aren't everyone else is busy making their open worlds, and this is like, what if we just handcraft everything down to the wire?
I mean, there's so much cool stuff. So you suck up a ghost, and like there's always like this little cut scene when right before they get sucked all the way into the poltergust. And there was one boss I was fighting. He was sucked like halfway into it, and he was screaming. And as he got sucked into it, when his head went inside the poltergust, his voice sounded like it was inside the poltergust. Like if you get near flames with the poltergust, just you can see the flames on the top of the candle starting to arc toward. Like it's just
actually
nuts.
Yeah. The sound in this is really good.
Oh my god, it's amazing, and it's mixed so well. Like
yeah, it uses the surround in ways the Switch games usually don't seem to bother with. Like it's a technical tour de force for these guys. I mean, it's
just look at it.
They are styling on this one.
Yeah.
They're showing off.
Oh, for sure,
a bit, and it's like
really like, Switch is
really
something.
It's really something I could stand to see more often from them.
Yep. All right, that's it.
Especially it's so weird. It even feels like Nintendo treats this franchise as kind of an afterthought.
Yeah,
but.
I hope it sells well.
It's really routinely one of their strongest entries in a year.
Yeah. There you go. That's Luigi's Mansion 3. It is time for our trailer of the week. Those of you guys who are on Sifted, I have a feeling you've guessed what the trailer is going to be. Matt, I think you probably guessed before you even got in here what the trailer was going to be.
Yeah.
This is a good time to get your questions into chat. Go at Sifted Games so we can pull them out of there and get them sorted from all the other comments in there. But our trailer of the week this week is for the Netflix series for The Witcher. This is the last trailer for the series. The series launches December 3rd. Is that right?
I thought it was later in December, but it is December one way.
It's like a month away.
I'm sure it'll say at the end of the trailer.
Yeah, it's like a month away. So we don't have to wait much longer. You're going to be binging this show over the holidays, and your parents are going to be like, I need the TV back or whatever, but... binge you will. And here it is, the final trailer for the Witcher series for Netflix. Let's roll it.
I've heard tales of your kind, Witcher. You're a mutant. Created by magic. Roaming the continent.
We don't want your kind here.
Hunting monsters. For a price. I thought you'd have fangs or horns or something.
I had them filed down.
People call you a monster too. Why not kill them?
Because then I am what they say I am.
All of our choices draw our destinies closer.
If he is out there, there is still hope.
Judge me.
They say witches can't feel human emotion. What do you believe in?
Evil is evil. Lesser. Greater. Middling. It's all the same. Princess Cirilla is your destiny. I can't pretend. character. If you dismiss it, you will unleash true calamity upon us all. I'll take that chance.
Holy crap, man.
And they spared no
That's
expense
no
on that
joke,
one.
man. Holy crap.
Well, Netflix wants this to kind of be their Game of Thrones.
I
so-
did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
They're-
amazing.
They're all in on this thing.
It looks incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be total garbage, but
It very much could be.
it is very
but,
well shot. That's
yeah.
for sure. And the production values are like through the roof. So
Oh, yeah.
they're giving it a chance at least.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I mean,
Yeah, we'll see if the writing holds up.
It looks right. And I'm, Cavill. I mean, look, Cavill's Superman is terrible, but it's not Cavill's fault. It's Zack Snyder not letting him emote. If you see him in almost any other thing he's ever done, especially Man from U.N.C.L.E., man's very charismatic, a lot of fun to watch. And it looks like they're letting him play Geralt like across the whole spectrum here. The Geralt from the books is a little more animated, a little more emotion driven. So if they put that in there, he'll be an engaging character, and he looks just like
It's
him.
a spitting
So,
image, seriously.
I mean, I know who
Good
who
casting.
every character in that trailer is just by looking at them. And you can't
they didn't
say-
try to
yeah.
like change them.
No,
or
you
whatever.
can't say that with every adaptation and stuff like this. So I think they seem to be on the right track.
Yep. Before we get to questions, your questions, we have a game to give away for another episode. This game comes courtesy of Erebus Jones, and it is Shenmue 1 and 2 for PC. So we're going to give it away the same way we did last time with The Walking Dead. We're going to do a quiz. It's going to be an easy quiz. So basically, you need to get your hands on your keyboard and ready to type. It's not that you're going to have to think about it. Either you know it or you don't. And
Do you know where sailors hang out?
that's not the question. I should have used that, though. So we're going to give you a quiz. Whoever types it into the chat first is going to win it. I know that's not fair. There are some people who are on DSL or whatever, and you're going to lose. There's just really no other way to do it, unfortunately. So we're going to give you one quiz question about Shenmue. And again, it's an easy question, and whoever gets it in first is going to get the game. Do not type in the answer if you do not have a gaming PC. Don't take this code and, try to sell it on GOG or whatever. Let somebody win this code who wants to play Shenmue 1 and 2. Please, I ask of you. And here it is. You guys ready? Get your fingers on the keyboard. First person to... Should they have to spell it right?
Yes. I don't even know what you're asking.
No, I don't think they should. If we know what it is, you'll win. You don't have to spell it 100% correctly. Someone says Rick James. Wrong. All right, the question is, and don't you blurt it out, who is the villain in the Shenmue series? Let's see who gets it.
The clock, really.
It's not the clock.
You say that now, but then when you're waiting for that damn arcade to open.
Rick James. There it is. Estmont got it. Landy. There you go. Estmont, you win. And I hope you have a gaming PC and you're going to play this instead of just taking the code and doing whatever with it. Send us a DM to our Twitch page, and I'll get back to you right after the show is done, and I'll send you the code. But make sure, send us a friend request so we can DM back and forth, and then send us a DM, and then I'll get the code to you as soon as the show is over. So there you go. Congratulations to Estmont. I told you it was easy. But yeah, Landy, who hopefully will see the end of that saga here in the next week and a half.
Probably not.
Coming up pretty soon. Probably
And
not.
Suzuki said it's still only a third of the story.
I know. That jerk. Let's see. Do we have any Twitch Prime to thank people for? Here's Commander Fett03. Thank you for 13 months. That is freaking awesome. And on a 5-month streak. Anybody else here at the end? It looked like a bunch of you guys did it.
J. Reed Vic did.
J. Reed Vic, thank you. Appreciate it,
I don't
brother.
know where that was, though.
There it is. J. Reed Vic, thank you. 11 months straight. That's freaking awesome. Okay, it looks like that's it for the end. Thanks to you guys who stuck around, too, after the stream went down. That sucks, and I can understand totally why you would just close out the browser and go do something else. So thank you guys for hanging out. But on the flip side, one of you got a free game for sticking with us. So there you go. Let's get to some questions. Mark Simpson, UK. After such a glowing review, is it now time to purchase a Switch? Is Luigi really worth buying a whole new platform for?
What?
No,
but there's a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, there's
in addition.
Yeah, this is like the thing that puts you over the top. Honestly, if you've been waiting to get a Switch, this is the game that puts you over the top. That makes it worth spending that money to play this, and Super Mario Odyssey, and Breath of the Wild, and all the other stuff that Nintendo's put out that's been great. So, yes, if you've been waiting, this is absolutely
and
the tipping
Fire
point.
Emblem Three Houses.
Yep, which just came out. Yep. J. Reed Vic 7, looking back at the real reveal of Xbox One, is it ironic that more than half of the games now are partially or completely online only? I don't know that I get that.
Why would that be ironic?
Because of the whole DRM stuff at the beginning. I mean, we've kind of talked about this before where we were like, wait, would Microsoft's idea work better now? Would people be more receptive to it now? I don't know if they would, honestly.
It was better just to let the digital marketplace sort of grow itself. You know, it naturally take over, and it seems to be. So.
Yep. Here's one from Vincent. Rumors are swirling now that Microsoft's next purchase is Playtonic, the ukulele developer. Good purchase or great purchase? He's not asking good or bad. Is it good or great?
Well, when they make a good game, let me know.
You're right, though. They really haven't yet.
But, I mean, Rare ain't making games like that. Those people are gone. Some of them are at Playtonic. So, I mean, at this point, Microsoft needs Microsoft needs a deep bench. And adding Playtonic to that mix can only help.
I think it's a very smart purchase, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the main thing with the two games they've made, I think, is they seem to lack resources, and that will be solved if Microsoft owns you. So, you know, it can only help.
I think it can do what Rare should have been doing for Microsoft all along, which is creating more content for younger players.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was the whole idea with Rare, was like, hey, now we have this great developer who can make entertainment for all ages, not just kids.
It seemed like it was, but then they just threw them on Avatar crap, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. And so this,
and
to me...
Connectimals.
Yeah. So this, to me, could be that gap filler for Microsoft. They're not as good as Rare, let's be honest. Even they're not as good as today's Rare.
But the old Rare was a moment in time.
It was,
you know, like, you can't recapture that. But you could maybe try another Viva Pinata game.
Would you want another Viva Pinata?
I liked Viva Pinata.
It's okay. It's unique, that's for sure.
Even
by today's standards.
I mean, I like a good little. I mean, what was that? That Zoo game came out today, right?
Yeah, it did.
Was it
Zoo World
Planet
or
Zoo or
Planet
something
Zoo?
like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of zoo sims.
My girlfriend was playing that when I left to come here. She's like,
Really?
the bonobos escaped. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell is going on.
Let's see. Erebus Jones is a trailer of the week, not Diablo 4. Thank you, Erebus, by the way, for giving us that code to give away. That's awesome, man. Thank you. As a trailer of the week, not Diablo 4 on the grounds, it was 45 minutes long. It wasn't 45 minutes.
It was 8 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was not the trailer of the week because we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, and we showed it. Maybe you showed up late, but we showed pretty much the whole 8-minute chunk while we were discussing the game. That's why it wasn't a trailer of the week.
Yeah, nothing is penalized here for being too long.
No.
Believe me.
That's great. Lynn Jeff 99. Is there a feature on Sifter that will allow me to block all Hideo Kojima news?
If there were, I would already be using it. Believe you me.
I'm not a fan, and to be mean, something about his same smirk in every photo irks me. He does not smile very often.
No, he has a smirk. Well, I mean, look, you get your picture taken often enough as like a celebrity like that, and you learn a face and you do it every time.
Because you also learn that when you make a face that makes you look bad, it gets plastered all over the place, and people make fun of you. So I can kind of understand why he's found, like my wife, when we take a photo, she always has to be on the one side.
Right.
I'm always on this side. She's always on this side. Every photo we've ever taken, because she believes, which to me seems insane, she believes that there's one side where she looks better. I think she looks the same no matter what, but there's one side where she thinks she looks better. So she always has to, and I don't care. I'm like, I don't care. You can take me from any angle. It doesn't matter. It does matter to her.
Nothing helps.
Right, exactly. I'm like, I am me. Like, that's the way it is. So, like, every photo, if you go back and look, I'm always like this, then she's here. Like, that's just the way it is. So I know, some people get caught up in stuff like that. My wife does. And, celebrities, where their appearance really matters, probably more so. Not Cirque. What are you most excited about for next gen?
Ray tracing. I don't know. Like I'm real interested to see what, in terms of like kind of what the new systems can do to enhance the existing games, and I really want to see what Respawn's going to do next.
Okay.
Frankly,
Titanfall 3 or whatever.
Whatever the Titanfall team is doing, I want to see what they're up to, and I want to see what the first like dedicated to next gen Assassin's Creed looks like.
That's a good barometer, a good benchmark to kind of check out. That's one of those franchises where you're like, I know what this is supposed to look like.
Yes.
And so
and
you can
what it
see.
looks like. And it's also sort of like Ubisoft makes cool stuff, but they don't like break their backs doing it. So it's kind of a good yardstick of like, what are the games going to look like on average? You know,
Yeah.
Like you can assume like Sony's first party stuff will look better than that, but like kind of the mid range like multi-platform stuff will look about like this. So it's like kind of a good barometer.
Yep.
Also, next gen, this gen, whatever, just get Beyond Good and Evil 2 in my hands, whatever it frickin' takes.
I want to see what Nintendo does more than anything, because I'm just completely.
Well, that's just so far out.
It is, I guess. I mean, Switch is already like 3 years old, and Nintendo does kind of stick to that 5-year plan.
Yeah, we're years away from Switch 2 still, I think.
I'm just interested because it's like.
They're not going to talk about it next year. They're going to let everybody do their thing.
But it's like,
after.
what does Nintendo do now? Like, it's very interesting. Like, does it release another console? Does it just stay with handhelds? Does it not release a console at all? Like,
I think you just keep releasing more powerful Switches.
I guess. Yeah.
Keep everything in the ecosystem. Just do the cell phone model.
Yeah. I mean, now that we know pretty much everything about PS5 and Xbox 2, like, I've kind of started turning my attention to, like, what does Nintendo do now? Mm-hmm. Because
Nintendo just keeps. Nintendo's system is in its prime. Like you don't need to do anything yet. Like
but it's doing it right now. Like behind the scenes, it is already figuring out.
We don't need to worry about that for another year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, at minimum.
I mean, at this point, we don't really need to worry about PS5 and Xbox 2 anymore either. We kind of know what they are. I think there's more mystery for Xbox 2 at this point.
Definitely more for Xbox 2, but the question becomes like, what is this OS? What are the OS going to look like? What is it? What are the capabilities going to be not in terms of
form
hardware,
factor look like,
but in terms of like bells and whistles and what the user experience is going to be and which one do you want to use more than the other? You know.
Yep.
If the power levels are identical, which environment is more attractive to you, basically? And I mean, really, it's Sony, because they're going to have Sony Santa Monica and Guerrilla Games and all those first party things. But like, it's always interesting to me to see the OS and what they did with. I mean, it wasn't as interesting last gen because
it sucked.
The PlayStation 4 was just the crossbar thing again, and Xbox One was like, what did you do?
Yeah,
but
you ruined a perfect system.
But I remember the 360 sort of ushering in that idea when Jay Allard came out and sat down on the stage in his hoodie and talked about his hoodie suit and talked about Velocity Girl making Tony Hawk T-shirts for money, and I was just like, yeah, that's cool. When you're kind of taking us through what it is like to use this system in a way that was never actually implemented. But that stuff is interesting to me. Like finding out how.
What's that day-to-day life going to be like with that piece of hardware? I get it. Justin Horman brings up something he was asking about blocking Kojima earlier. You can just block the games. So if you're sick of seeing like Death Stranding stuff in your Sift, just go to the game page for Death Stranding. And right next to the title, there's like a little gear there. And you can just click that gear and in the drop-down, choose to block all the content from that game in your Sift, and you'll never see it again. You do have to remember to go back and manually turn it back on, though, so be careful. I think that might be it. Do we have any other questions? S1 Agathor, thank you very much for subscribing via Twitch Prime. You're awesome. Oh, no, there's a lot more questions left. Oh, geez. Les David, do you think it's smart for companies to give games 1 week prior to the public release date, i.e. Death Stranding? I feel the hype is gone already with only media playing it and tossing it aside after a weekend. The media definitely did not toss it aside after playing it a weekend. The game is gigantic. It's like 60 or 70 hours long.
Yeah, Edge's review isn't even going to be in their next issue because they couldn't finish it in time.
Yeah, nobody just like played it for an hour.
Although they did say the requirement was you had to finish it to review it, and they said that we ran out of enthusiasm long before we ran out of time.
Yeah,
there's a real mixed bag on the reviews.
I don't really think it's mixed at all. There's like one outlet that I've seen that liked it.
Oh, there's tons of 9s and 10s. I mean,
really?
They're not from like big out. I mean, but like the Metacritic is like 84.
Is it?
I mean, it's not. It's not.
See, that's why we don't curate those sites to sift it.
But I mean, GameSpot gave it a high rating.
GameSpot's the only one.
Like, they're up there. I mean, the most IGN 6.8, and the reflective text is the most level-headed take on the game I've seen so far. That felt like a pretty realistic view on things.
I have a feeling,
but
I'm going to come in lower than that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's going to be a struggle. My attention span.
Obviously, that'll be in next week's episode.
My attention span is so short right now with all the things I have to do that, like, the idea that this game is going to hold my attention for any length of time is a little crazy to me because it's just
60 hours of time.
Well, no, we're not. I'm not going to get that done before Star Wars comes out, and maybe I'll go back to it before Christmas. But
let's answer his question though, because we actually didn't. We just went on a tangent about Death Stranding. He says, "Do you think it's smart for companies to let the reviews come out a week before the game comes out?"
I mean, it's better for consumers because you get to see what everybody thinks about something. I don't know if it's better for them. I mean, I don't know how many people are actually not going to buy the game because of how reviews turned out. Well, usually if a review disagrees with how someone believes a game's going to be to them, they just say the reviewer didn't know what they were talking about.
Or they'll then they go buy 2 of them. Yeah.
Right.
To say, screw you.
I mean, I did cancel my collector's edition.
Oh, you did?
I'm just going to, from Amazon, I'm just going to get the digital version and call it a day. And, I mean, I didn't cancel it because I don't want to play it anymore because of the reviews. I canceled it because I feel like this is going to be such a mixed reception that collector's edition will become hard to unload.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't want to get stuck with it.
That could be a problem. Yeah.
So I'm just going to get a digital one and call it a day.
I don't think there's any problem with putting out reviews early as long as the game is good. That same thing happened for God of War. Yeah. It didn't hurt God of War sales.
I certainly wouldn't say the hype is gone. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, neither.
It's the only thing anyone's talking about other than the Deadspin thing.
Yeah.
The chatter on Twitter is nothing but Death Stranding takes right now.
Yeah, I think it works as long as the game is good. If the game's bad, it doesn't matter whenever you
good
let people
or
review
like at least controversial or discussion worthy. I mean, I say Death Stranding is whether you like it or hate it. There's something to talk about.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. Am I surprised that Sony let the reviews get out that early, knowing what the game was? Yes.
Yeah, for this specific game, that was a little surprising.
Like God of War, sure. Like if you had played that before it came out, you knew it was going to be great. You knew it was a concept that had been accepted by millions of people already. With this game, it might have been a mistake to let the reviews go out a week early.
We'll see. I mean, most people. I mean, that's the thing is like you say, people that make these games really massive mega hits don't even know reviews happened.
Yeah, they don't even know that it got railed.
But I don't know if that audience is going to even notice Death Stranding. So it's going to be real interesting what the sales are on this thing, if we even find out for sure.
Last one from Delfino109. If you could run EA, what kind of decisions would you take? What?
I saw one with your face on it. I always notice the ones where they use your face emoticon.
I don't see it.
Might have been down further.
I don't know.
Maybe not. It was up. It was during the trailer.
Now I lost the question. Oh.
But it scrolled by pretty quick.
Now I lost the question we were going to... Oh, here we go.
Delfino... It's up where Commander Fett... No, never mind.
It's okay. If you could run EA, what kind of decisions would you take from a company standpoint to satisfy your customers, leverage old relevant IP, etc.? I mean, we kind of answered this.
We covered it.
We did the whole topic on this already. All right, we'll answer one more. Politics, we're not going to answer that. One super master gamer, what game genre do you think should innovate next gen? The sweeping up ghost with a vacuum genre.
I don't know. I mean, all of them, really.
I mean, the shooters are the most popular genre, so they should lead. They should.
Are they?
They sell the most, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Absolutely.
Is GTA a shooter?
They may consider it a shooter.
I mean, sure. I would say it's more like the open world adventure is the juggernaut these days.
It's not for sales, though. I mean, you got to figure you have Call of Duty selling 30 million every year. So just from one game, you have that huge lead just right there.
Sort of, but they don't lead the charts all that often. I mean,
yeah, they do.
Mario Kart is the thing ripping the charts up. Where's our kart racer innovation?
Yeah. I mean, I just think shooters are generally what leads the industry ahead.
I would like to see proof of that. I don't think that's true anymore.
It is true.
I don't think it's true anymore.
I'll dig it up and text it to you in a bit. But
maybe
anyway,
if you incorporate microtransactions.
So anyway, whatever the most popular genre is what should lead. It's because it's what people are playing the most, and it's what people trust the most, so they're going to buy it even if it has a new idea. If you build an entire game around a new idea, people tend to shy away because again, I think that might happen to Luigi's Mansion 3. People look at it, they're like, what is that? I don't get it. I don't want it. So I think generally you need to innovate in a genre that most people are accepting of and most people are willing to play.
I don't think you can ever predict what the innovative genre will be because it comes out of nowhere every time.
I think he's saying what genre should innovate.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
should innovate next gen.
I mean, all of them, but like I don't know what.
He's telling you to pick one. Which genre is most important to innovate next gen?
Well, that's the thing is I don't care about innovation nearly as much as execution.
Okay.
Like new ideas are not as important to me as doing something well.
You've said that before.
Which is, again, I think Luigi's Mansion is a really good example of that.
Yep.
Like, they didn't reinvent the wheel with Luigi's Mansion 3, but they sure perfected it.
They sure did. And no one else is going to do it. So it's a party of one.
Yeah. No, there was not going to be a PUBG for Luigi's Mansion.
As awesome as that would be. All right, that's it for GameFace 189 here on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. If you are listening to the show on Apple Podcasts or on Google Play, head to patreon.com/sifted and pledge at least $1 a month. At least. If you're getting 3 hours of entertainment a week, 12 hours of entertainment per month, you can kick us a frickin' $1. Please kick us more. That would be great. But at least give us $1. And if we have enough of those people...
Kick Shane repeatedly.
And
that is our request.
And if you pay me $1, I'll let you kick me. How about that?
That's true. Happens at the Game Awards every year. Very few people know that.
Yeah. The same holds true for you folks on YouTube. If you're consuming this show for free, I know a lot of you guys are using ad blockers. You're not doing anything for us. You're just consuming the show. Go to patreon.com/sifted and help the brothers out. If you want the show to keep going, that's the only way it's going to happen. Updates on Sifted 2.0. Brent had a baby. Congratulations to Brent. He and his wife just had a new child. So some of the site development stuff has been put on hold for a little bit. The target for Sifted 2.0 for all the other stuff that's coming is probably going to be like the first week of January. We're probably going to launch it in the new year. We have other surprises and big announcements coming for Sifted 2.0 as well. In addition to the site being redesigned, there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes that's going to make a huge difference for us. So please support us. We appreciate everybody. Look, if you can only just watch on YouTube with your ad blocker turned off, we appreciate that too. If you can only just watch the show and share it on social media, we appreciate that too. In fact, that is one of the best things that you can do, is going on social media and saying everybody needs to watch or listen to this podcast. I saw some people, there was some article posted, like the 10 best gaming podcasts, and of course we weren't included on it. But some of our fans got into that thread and were voicing their opinion. That's where you make a difference, because people that go to that article are looking for new gaming podcasts. So if you ever see stuff like that and you believe that we're a good gaming podcast, go in there and be like, it's freaking GameFace. That makes a difference. Those people are looking for a gaming podcast. And if you go in there and there's a group of you in there saying y'all are crazy for not having GameFace on there, everyone who reads the article is going to be like, well, what's GameFace? It works. So if you can't afford to help us financially, you can help us maybe even better than the people who are giving us money. So that's all we ask. Help us out however you can. We'll be back next Tuesday, same time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Another big episode of Big Games, definitely Death Stranding. I cannot wait for that discussion, Matt. Because you and I, we have different perspectives on games, but I have a feeling this one might be one where we come together on. We'll see. But anyway, Death Stranding will definitely be in the show, along with a couple other big games. It's just full steam ahead here for the rest of the year. So
I'm going to want to do a bit where we bring up all the old trailers, and I remind you of how gushy and excited you were about all the different Death Stranding trailers. I'm like, how do you feel now?
Yeah.
I'm just going to lay on a couch and Sigmund Freud you.
I wasn't even that excited about it. I just said that I was going to give it a chance.
Oh, you were like, oh, this looks amazing. I can't believe that he's doing this crazy shit. I mean, not that you thought the game
I'm going to go back and look for that, because I don't
you
remember
were,
that.
You were pretty hyped about this thing.
I don't remember
Going
that at
way
all.
back.
I remember
And
me
you were
being the one who was giving it a chance while you were the one shutting it down.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But you were maybe that's just spectrum-wise.
It's just my journalistic nature. Like, I just don't shut anything off until I experience it. It's just the way I am.
I don't shut anything off, but I know history means something, and I had no reason to expect anything different from him. And maybe without Solid Snake in the mix, it's finally a little more obvious what he is.
The Emperor is wearing no clothes. We'll see.
And neither is Norman Reedus.
7 days, Matt, Kyle, and I right here talking Death Stranding. You better be there. We'll see you then.
Cage match.
GameFace is up and out.